Big Sills! Good Monday to you. Hopefully you had a great weekend, an Easter weekend. I was just telling Tone, food, family, and the Lord. Not much better, man. You had some sports kind of with the Masters. By the way, real quick, I never, ever in a million years ever want to see Tiger Woods leave the scene. I don't give a shit if he's carrying his leg. I don't give a shit if he's dragging his leg. I want to watch greatness all the time. Tiger Woods cannot dent what he has accomplished in his career. Why do you think people watch their favorite movies over and over again or listen to their favorite songs? It's because it reminds you of something that puts you in a good place. Tiger Woods, as a sports fan, puts you in a place of greatness. He's not the same guy he'll never be. I don't care. I don't care. It's awesome watching him go around and loop around a golf course. I don't care if he's not the same. I don't care. The more I see Tiger, I don't care if Tiger Woods, watch this, when Tiger goes to the Champions Tour, I'll watch that and not the PGA anymore. Dude, when people go, hey, I hope he calls it a career and go. Why? Why? He's alive. He's not dead. He's accomplished. Don't you, when you see Joe Montana or Tom Brady, don't they remind you of great? You think Tom Brady, if he came back and played this year, would hurt his resume or his legacy? Come on, man. Those guys are difference makers. They're the needles. Tiger, I hope you keep playing as much as you want, and I'll be right there watching you. You think I'm going to sit around on a Thursday and watch Jon Rahm play golf? No, I don't care how good you look, how good you looked over the week. I don't care. That is not appointment-setting television. Tiger Woods is. Jon Rahm is not. Guy wins the Masters. I could care less. So, Tiger Woods, no, please keep playing. Also, packed show. Mike Golic, bottom of the hour, former Eagle, who played right next to Jerome Brown. Would you draft Jalen Carter? With all the issues that are going on, would you draft him? Gary Cobb, obviously, 4:30 Eastern from Fox 29 in Philadelphia will join us as well. So we have two former Eagles on. Mike Golic, bottom of this hour. And at 4:30, we will have Gary Cobb. I'm going to get into the draft order here. We're 17 days out from the draft. By the way, all of a sudden now it's starting to pick up some steam about Bijan Robinson in the market there, whether or not they should draft him at 10. Okay? And people throw out, well, Kareem Hunt and Ezekiel Elliott and some of these other guys, those guys are out of gas. They have nothing to offer a team. Except for this, maybe. Those guys might be better than Bijan Robinson in pass protection, which is important. Which is important. It is. But not so much in the Eagle offense. And remember something about the Eagle offense. You know, people say this about the 10th pick and a running back. I don't want to use that equity for that position. The Eagles have a unique offense. You're not the Patrick Mahomes offense or the Joe Burrow offense. You got to protect Jalen Hurts. Your best running back right now is your quarterback. Last year it wasn't. Hey, before we get any further, do you know how many people think that Miles Sanders had a good season last year? Good, great, spectacular. What kind of season do you think he had a year ago? Just curious. On a scale of 1 to 10, what kind of season do you think Miles had a year ago? Okay? Ezekiel Elliott to the Eagles. Give me a break. That's a waste of money. Yes. He's got nothing left. Jeff goes a 9. Chico goes good. Well, let me hook you up here. He had a 7? Huh. Would it shock you that Miles Sanders had the 8th greatest single season rushing game season in Eagle history? McCoy, 1607, 1. Montgomery, 2, 15-12-79. Waters, 3rd, 1411. Montgomery again, 4th, 1402. Westbrook, 1333 in 2007. McCoy at 6 and 7 with 13-19 and 09, 14 and 11. Deuce Staley, 1999. And Ricky Waters, 1273. And there's Miles Sanders, the 9th greatest rushing attack for a single season in Eagle history. And you think that's good? So you think Miles Sanders had a good season? Miles Sanders had one of the iconic seasons in Eagle history. Plus the fact he was a double-digit touchdown guy. I don't really think he played all that hot. Oh, okay, wait. Just the 9th greatest rushing season in Eagle history. He's okay. I love how people kind of change the narrative when a guy's no longer on the football team. Well, he was okay. 9th greatest in the history of the team for a single season? We're not talking about the 20th best rushing season. We're talking about one of the best years in the history of the franchise. I don't care how you, hey, whatever. 9th all-time in Eagle history. Good season. He was the best running back. Now you've lost that. Now Jalen's back to being the best running back. Okay? Now Howie's. It still blows my mind. It really does. It blows my mind how people still are doing this. I'd rather take the lesser player at 10. And I'm going to make a point to you here. Jalen Carter, Will Anderson, Bijan Robinson, maybe Tyree Wilson. The rest of them, those are your wow players in this draft. The rest of them are really good, probably through 25. This is not a great draft. This is not a great draft. So why at 10? If those two guys are there, you're in luck. By the way, I think the Eagles are probably going to be sitting in a pretty good premium position at 10. Let me show you why. Here's the draft order. There's probably 4, maybe 5 quarterbacks that will be taken, okay, in this draft. Carolina, Houston, right out of the gate. So then the 3rd pick is either going to be Carter or Anderson. And probably Jonathan Gannon will go Will Anderson. Indy's going to take a quarterback. Would Seattle take Jalen Carter after just signing a guy to a big-time contract, a defensive tackle? Would they take another tackle? Or would they try to get more help in the secondary? Would they take – that's a possibility, but could they take a quarterback to replace Geno Smith in 2 years with one of the guys? So Bryce Young and most likely C.J. Stroud are off the board. Would they take Levis here? Would they take Anthony Richardson here? Would they take Hendon Hooker here? I think it's defense or quarterback there at Seattle. Would Seattle want to make a move there at 5? Maybe. Detroit. Could they take Jalen Carter? Yeah. But they need secondary help. Big time. They need corner help. Gonzalez or quarterback. Vegas, quarterback. Atlanta, quarterback. Defense is terrible. Could Jalen Carter go there? Would you move up from 10 to 8? Boy, I would if Carter's there. Wouldn't cost you the 30th either. Wouldn't cost you a 30th. It might cost you a second and a third and the 10th pick to move up to 8 to Atlanta. Now we're starting to talk about reasonable things. Chicago's got to take an O-lineman. There's still 2 quarterbacks on the board. Does Howie either trade the pick, take Carter? What does he do here? Trade down to get an O-lineman? I think Howie Roseman sitting at 10. I think he's in a great spot. Maybe the best spot outside of the top pick in the draft. Well, you know why? Because the Eagles have a great team. Look at all those teams in the top 10. Only one was a playoff team. Seattle. The rest of them sucked. And the reason that Seattle's in a really great... Now, I would say this. The 3 best positions have to be 5, 1, and 10 in the first round and the first 10 picks. The first pick, the 5th pick, and the 10th pick. Okay? First pick, obviously. You get the pick of the litter. The 5th pick, you're going to get a defender. You're going to get a defender or one of the quarterbacks. 5th pick's a great pick. 10th pick, my God, with all these quarterbacks that are flying up these charts, man, Howie's got to be looking at it like this. Well, if my guy falls to where I think, and you got Bijan Robinson there, and you've got Jalen Carter there, and you've got a quarterback there, what do you do if you're Howie? If you've got one of the quarterbacks, say Anthony Richardson's there, Anthony Richardson at 10, Jalen Carter, and Will Anderson. I'm not suggesting the Eagles are going to take a quarterback. I'm saying those 3 players across the board could be there for a team to go up to Howie and go, I'll give you another 1 for next year, and I'll give you a 2, 3, 2 2s and a 3 this year to take that spot. I'd do it, wouldn't you? And you got the 30th pick still. And maybe what you do then is you move up from 30 to get an edge rusher. And somewhere in someone that kind of falls more in line with you. Make sense? Kind of falls more in line with you. Howie's sitting in a great spot. He is sitting in a great spot. And what's helping this out is the quarterbacks. By the way, please, I want someone to do this. Stop with this. Well, you know what? I'd rather, why would I not want a veteran running back? The veteran running backs that are out there in the open market right now are dog shit. Their own teams don't want them. Okay? Their own team. A running back? That's out of gas. Did you see what Cleveland said? Cleveland over the weekend said they think Kareem Hunt doesn't have the same speed he had when he got here. They think he's lost a step. What in the world would I want to have that guy on my ball team when I can go get B.J. Robinson on a rookie contract? By the way, there's no other player in the NFL draft that could help the Eagles more than Robinson. Is there? Name me one guy in the draft that could help Jalen Hurts out in 2023 more. One guy. One guy. Name me one guy offensively. Nobody. All the players that are going to be drafted, not one guy in this draft will help him more except for that running back from Texas. And guess what people in Philly are saying? I don't want to waste the 10th pick. Waste? You've got a history of wasting first picks. They would rather draft Jalen Reagor and then turn around and go, I don't want to do Bijan Robinson, even though he's the fifth player evaluated in the draft. Imagine the asinine, ass-backwards thought process on that. And in a position that they're not very good at drafting, wide receivers. So these guys would tell you this. You listen to some of the radio shows, they would rather say this to you. Go get an edge rusher. Are you under the impression the Eagles are good drafters at edge rushing? Brandon Graham and what? Brandon Graham and what? I'm going to show you something here. By the way, Mike Golic, bottom of the hour. I'm going to show you something here. I've ranked the 10 best draft picks for the Philadelphia Eagles since 2020, or since 2010, since 2000. I have ranked the best Eagle draft picks since 2000. Josh Sweat's getting there, Tyler. I'm a big fan of his. Okay? Here are the top 10 picks, according to Big Sills, that the Eagles have selected since 2000. Let's go from 10 up. I got Devontae Smith here. First rounder, wide receiver, Alabama. Yeah. Put the 2 seasons together, really good. 95 catches, second season, coming into his own. Great route runner. He is by far a keeper. That's right. Since 2000. At 9, maybe low, I got Shady McCoy. 2009, second round, running back out of Pitt. One of the absolutely best, if not the best running back ever drafted in Philadelphia Eagle history, including Wilbert Montgomery. His name is just littered all over. I mean, how many times does his name pop up when you're talking about single seasons? Number 1, 2013, 1607. 13, 19, and 14. 13, 09, and 11. Guy's one of the absolutely, if not the best running back in the history of the Philadelphia Eagles. I got that pick at number 9. Number 8, Trent Cole. 2005, 5th round pick out of the University of Cincinnati. The production that you got out of the 5th rounder and for what he did and the Pro Bowl and all that, what a quality pick the Eagles got with Trent Cole. Trent Cole, 8. 5th rounder, defensive end, Cincinnati. Number 7, Deshaun Jackson. 2008, a 2nd rounder, wide receiver, University of Missouri. Probably next to Tyreek Hill, the greatest deep threats in NFL history. Hill's a little better, but also D-Jax, which could put him maybe over Tyreek Hill, whatever your flavor is that he's a special teams demon. Okay? A special teams demon. Did he go to Cal? Is D-Jax a Cal guy? Not Missouri? Okay, I thought he's a Cal guy. Is he? He's a Cal guy, isn't he? Right? I don't know why I thought Missouri. I wrote that down off the top of my head. He's a Cal guy, right? So I got Devontae at 10. I got LaShawn McCoy at 9. Trent Cole at 8. That's right. Macklin went to Missouri. Deshaun Jackson, Cal, at 7. Here's number 6, Lito Shepherd, 2002. First-round pick, DB, University of Florida. Absolutely fabulous football player. One of the very few times they got a pick right in the secondary. Number 5, it took a little bit for this dude to get going in his career in Philadelphia. What I'm doing here, I'm giving you the Big Sil's best draft pick since 2000. I got Brandon Graham at 5, 2010, first rounder, University of Michigan. Defensive end. Number 4, Fletcher Cox, 2012, first rounder, DT, Mississippi State. I would make this comment to you about Fletcher Cox. In the Super Bowl era, Reggie, Jerome, him, Corey Simon, probably your best defensive lineman drafted. Okay? Probably. Corey Simon was a good football player too, Florida State kid. Number 3, Brian Westbrook, 2002, third round, running back, Nova. In my opinion, since 2000, you have not had a consistently better offensive football player outside the quarterback position than Brian Westbrook. Could do it all. Block, run, catch. Dude, for the amount of years that he played in Philly, the kind of ball player he was, Brian Westbrook's my favorite Eagle since 2000. He's just a great football player. He was Christian McCaffrey before Christian McCaffrey. Brian Westbrook's a fabulous football player. Fabulous football player. One of your greatest of all time, too. Can you imagine Brian Westbrook in today's Jalen Hurts offense? Shit. You think that guy in San Francisco makes $20 million? You'd have to pay him $25 million. Brian Westbrook was a super stud. Number 2, Lane Johnson. And by the way, these first 2 guys are going to Canton. Lane Johnson, 2013, first rounder, Oklahoma. I mean, the conversation for Lane Johnson should be as short as the conversation that you had for Joe Thomas. If you didn't have that long of a debate on Joe Thomas, the Cleveland Brown offensive tackle, then there's no conversation that should be any longer than this with Lane. He has been a perennial All-Pro. He has been a staple in the development of a football team, no matter who the quarterback is. The one thing that has been stable has been these 2 men on that offensive side of the football. Everybody else was interchangeable. Anybody else was interchangeable. Okay? But Jason Kelce at 1. Jason Kelce's your greatest draft choice since 2000. It's not close. Hall of Famer, one of the top 3 centers in the history of 100 years of the sport. You're not just talking about Jason Kelce being the best Eagle maybe ever. You're talking about Jason Kelce being the greatest center ever in NFL history. Mike Webster. All them guys. Kevin Mawai. Go down the line. You could make the argument that he is the greatest center of all time. The things he does, how smart he is, how he knows the adjustments at the offensive line when it comes to pass protection, how he scoops and slips up to the second and sometimes third levels. How many centers have you ever seen do that? Get to the second and third level in his 13th year. Incredible. Incredible. Here are my top 10 draft picks since 2000. Devontae Smith, 10. LaShawn McCoy, 9. Trent Cole, 8. Deshaun Jackson, 7. Lito Shepherd, 6. Brandon Graham, 5. Fletcher Cox, 4. Brian Westbrook, 3. Lane Johnson, 2. And Jason Kelsey, 1. Hurts has a chance to get into this. Needs more games. Needs more games. Okay? I think Devontae, again, he's right there. Okay? He's right there. But when you're talking about 2,000 receiving yards in 2 seasons in a place that doesn't really traditionally throw the ball, think about that too. Remember this. This isn't Kansas City or Green Bay. The Philadelphia Eagles have a very limited history in wide receivers in the history of the franchise. It's not a rich history. And for them to get 2,000-yard receivers last year is remarkable. Just not a very good history in wideouts. Tight ends, it's exceptional. Wide receivers, it's not. It's because they don't draft well there. However, again, Devontae is rolling into it. He really is. He really is. You know, I got to tell you something. One of the reasons that I wanted to have Mike Golic on today, don't forget, Gary Cobb will join me also at 4:30 in the second hour. I have never in my life ever compared a player to Jerome Brown. You know, I've been doing this now for almost 30 years, 32 years, something like that. I've been in broadcasting. I've never in a million years ever compared a player. Jalen Carter, in many ways, on and off, has a lot of characteristics. I've never done this. And as you know, I've been doing it as of late. I told Phil Simms this last week. Mike Golic played next to him and knows the strengths and positives and weaknesses and strengths of Jerome. When you watch Jalen Carter, you see it. Let's bring my friend Mike Golic on now. And Mike, I appreciate you coming aboard. Thank you so much, my friend.
You got it, man.
Mike, I compared Jalen Carter to Jerome. And follow me when I say this to you. Did he have issues in college? Were there question marks? Yes. We were crazy dudes. We all made mistakes. Jerome lived on the edge. Jalen Carter, decision-making. Sometimes Jerome wasn't in shape. All that stuff. I remember having conversations with Buddy about his conditioning. If he's at 10, would you draft him if you're Howie Roseman?
Wow. You know, when I've covered Jalen a couple of times when I was calling college games, and well, that defense that they had obviously was incredible for the last couple of years. He is incredible. And so what do you usually do when you see a guy that's that good? You start to look for any kind of red flag. And then we obviously saw it with the tragic accident that went on and how he dealt with that, because there's that side of it, which is more concerning because there were lives lost. So that takes precedent on that. But then, you know, when it gets back to football, there was a time that Jalen had a chance because he didn't do anything at the combine because he had to leave there before he came back to turn himself in. Then he had his pro day, you know, so then you show up to your pro day a little heavier and you can't finish your drill. So immediately, because you know how scouts are, Dan. I mean, they want you to be 1,000% football all the time. That's your entire life was football no matter what. I mean, Myles Garrett, God forbid, he decided, you know, to have a little mind of his own and do his own thing a little bit. And everybody was a little nervous of that. I'd say he debunked that pretty quickly by being an incredible edge rusher. But this is one about, can you prepare yourself? If things get rough, do you shut down? You know, in the beginning, Dan, I had said I would take this guy. And I think I would still lean toward taking him. I would, but because the one thing I saw out of Jerome, whenever Jerome was on the football field, Jerome went 1,000%. Now, yeah, you could say, was he always, in shape to be on the football field? How did he take care of himself and all that? But we went on the football. Listen, if Jerome didn't unfortunately pass away, him and his nephew in that accident, Jerome was on a career for a Hall of Fame, on path for a Hall of Fame career. No, there's zero doubt about that.
Zero.
He's one of the best I've ever seen play the interior the way he does. I would say at the end of the day, I would probably roll the dice on Jalen Carter, that he's such a talent on the field that you would kind of take him, and let's be honest, you kind of cross your fingers a little bit and hope you're getting the guy that you see that can be devastating on the field.
Mike, to me, it comes down to the interview. Make me not want to take you, because I think like what you and I say is this: son, your decision-making is my problem here. You knew you had what you had to do getting ready for the combines. You knew when you had your pro day. And to me, tell me why you're not prepared for that. Remember Randy Gregory? The guys all told him, don't smoke weed before the combines. The guy fell to the third round, and I'm like, decision-making, Mike, when you're getting that kind of money and they're going to put a 10th pick on you, man, you got to know the room. And not knowing the room is my problem and my only red flag with the kid problem.
Listen, I'm one of those, if they take him, I could see why. And if they don't, I can see why. Because I've said this for years. The combine, I'm a little tired of the combine, and sometimes the pro days as well. Again,
guys in shorts, Mike.
I mean, we had Anthony Richardson, who, by the way, is just an incredible freak athlete, but we knew that. And again, we got to hear about somebody rolling left and throwing it 55 yards down the field. Didn't everybody go gaga over Zach Wilson doing that in shorts and t-shirt? What the hell good did that do you? So my only point to saying that is I'm not a big fan of the combine or the pro days outside of the interviews, especially with quarterback, but the interviews and getting to know someone. The thing about it is you're choosing to do the combine and or pro day. So now my thought is be ready to do it. I think some of the drills are a waste of time, but if you're going to do it, make them the best. Make it look like you have prepared yourself for this test, even though I think the test can be a little iffy, but you've prepared yourself for it. And he didn't. So that's a red flag. And I'm with you. So you sit in that room and you say, why were you 9 pounds heavier? Why couldn't you finish the drills? And tell me why we wouldn't think something might affect you after we draft you that's going to make you do the same thing and not be ready to play. And hear what he has to say, because that's the unfortunate thing as well. When you go to these places to train, they also kind of tell you what to say as well. So you have to kind of filter through, is he telling me what I want to hear, or am I really buying into what he's saying?
Mike, I said this about this draft. I see probably 3 wild players: Bijan Robinson, Jalen Carter, Will Anderson, maybe the kid from Tech, Tyree Wilson, the edge rusher guy.
Yeah.
The rest of them, Mike, probably through 25. It's probably going to be a good draft for till 25. Then the rest of them, I don't know. I mean, I don't really see a ton of wild guys. The Eagles are sitting at 10. Mike, what kills me is I hear people in Philly doing this. Well, hell, I'm not going to waste a running back here to save Jalen Hurts. I mean, it's a unique offense. It's not like the Kansas City offense. You got to take carries away from that guy because it's a dual threat quarterback. So take some of the carries away. Why do people still to this day, Mike, they do this? I'd rather take the need position and the lesser player at 10 than the player that's the better player at 10 that can help you.
So I've been on this like you. Listen, we played in the league a while, and we've covered now the league for a long time. And you always hear that best player, or what do you actually need? I'm one of those, man, if you have a need, you got to fill your need. What is your need? Fill your need. Now, if you don't have a lot of needs, then go ahead and grab the best player available. Robinson, I love this. It reminds me of Marshall Faulk. running the ball and being able to catch the ball out of the backfield. There's him, and then there's a drop-off with the rest of the running backs. And we know the thought process for running backs in the first round. Get through that first contract. How much of a beating do they take? And then to try and get them to that second contract. But I'm with you. If I have a glaring need, now, if your glaring need is at 6 or 5 or 10, since we're talking about Philly or any team, if there is a need there, but the one thing you have to weigh, if the best player for your need doesn't grade to the 10th pick, then you have some issues, because what's the goal of every team is especially if you're drafted high, you want to get that impact player, but after that, you want to steal players. You want to draft them lower than they should be going, so you don't have to pay them as much or work it that way. You want to try and maximize where you're getting them, and even if you have to drop back a little bit, now you run the risk of losing that person. But that would be what I would say. If you have a big need at 10, and the guy that fits your need is there at 10, but you don't have a grade as that high of a pick, then that's where I kind of run into problems that say, okay, do I try and trade back? Do I try and steal him later? Or do I go for the best player available?
And Mike, to me, if you're rebuilding, you don't take a running back at 10. But when you're the NFC champion and you got this pick because you stole it from New Orleans last year, and you're one of the favorites to win the NFC, Mike, I'm taking a player that could try to get me over the hump right now. And that's what this kid does for me a little bit. I mean, right?
Yes. Now, what I'll say is, remember, you already lost Hargrave on the D-line. And your D-line, the guys you brought back, they're all in their 30s. They're getting older, right?
Yes.
So now you got to pair someone with Jordan Davis, So Will Anderson obviously is not going to be there. I don't know if Wilson will be there. Will this Van Ness kid maybe be there? And I don't know what their grade is on him. So, and you had 70 sacks in the regular season last year. You're losing Hargrave, a guy who had, double-digit sacks, and your other guys are getting older. And I can speak to experience from this one. We had that D-line we had in Philly. One of the reasons it was the main reason it was good is because we had Reggie White, Jerome Brown, and Clyde Simmons. But we also had, Steve Kafusi, Andy Harmon, Mike Pitts, myself. We had a rotation. So, and when you saw the 49ers get to the Super Bowl a couple of years ago, they were led by their defense, and that defensive line had a rotation. Then DeForest Buckner, they traded him to the Colts, and they lost a guy from there. But so I can understand the Eagles saying, okay, we lost a guy. Our other guys are getting older. We need to, filter in some younger guys to go with a Jordan Davis, who is that run stuffer guy, not really the pass rush guy, and get another guy on the edge. So I can see that. I see that as being a need for them, because that was a monster part of their team last year, was the defensive side of the ball. But then again, see, this is the fun of the draft. I'm also with you on Robinson. He is the absolute back of what the NFL of today is, where you can run the ball, but you're a great mismatch when you go out in a route, when I line you up in the slot, when I line you up wide to start a series, to see what coverage is going to be, to bring you back in. So it's a tough call. But if they go edge rusher here, I can certainly understand why.
Mike, I said this last year about Jordan Davis, and I take a page out of Jimmy Johnson's book. If when I'm drafting a high pick, 13th pick, 10th pick, what have you, I want production. And I looked at his production at Georgia, and I said, man, in 43 games, he had 9 sacks. That's not very productive to me. And with the 13th pick, and Mike, I'm not saying he wasn't a first rounder. He wasn't a 13th pick. They overdrafted him. He should have been down probably in the 20s. I went like this, Mike. If you get Fletcher Cox out of that guy, you're lucky. But to me, he's more like Vince Wilfork. Yeah. You think the Eagles overdrafted him yesterday?
Well, I think he's in between Wilfork and Fletcher Cox. He's not going to be that pass rusher that Fletcher Cox is. He's going to be that run guy, that run stuff guy occasionally. He can push the pocket on you and collapse it a little bit. But I don't think he's going to be Fletcher. Again, it was one of those situations, I'm sure, Dan, where 13 rolled around.
Yep.
They saw where their need was, just what I said before. Is he – and they wanted him, but did he have like the 13th pick in the draft grade? Probably not, but they drafted a need there, which shows that they have no problem saying if we need something, we're going to take it. I could certainly see Robinson here. What he would do for that offense would be incredible, especially with the Jalen Hurts, added running ability that he has as well. I can see both sides of it. That's why I wonder if they even know where they're going yet. We know it's a lying season. You're not going to get the truth out of anybody. But it would be interesting to decide or to see which way they're going and also what's available. Is Robinson taken before that? Running back taken in the top 10. Are the edge rushers they had a high grade on, are they gone at that point? So you can have your board ready and then have it completely flipped upside down in the first hour of the draft.
I'm going to ask you a couple questions on the current roster now.
Yeah.
Mike, would you pay Jalen Hurts $50 million a year on 17 ball games?
Well, I mean, I always do it this way, Dan. What's your alternative? What's your
Gardner
alternative?
Minshew?
Yeah, I mean, and Gardner Minshew where is he in Indy now?
He's in Indy now.
Yeah. They'll either way, if it's a rookie or him, their seventh different starter in 7 years since Andrew Luck left. That's everybody goes nuts with the money that's going on
because it affects the roster, Mike.
It does. I get it, but you know what? A very smart guy that I listen to a lot is Andrew Brandt, who used to be in management, dealt with the Brett Favres and Aaron Rodgers of the world when he was in management for the Green Bay Packers. He teaches business classes and such. And I tend to agree with him he says it's a lazy argument to say the quarterback's taking up all the cap. Figure it out. You can figure it out if you have a good capologist and you're looking ahead. When is my quarterback due? What can I spend before that? And a lot of times we see that when a quarterback comes out and is great right out of the gate, you can bring in other guys and pay them around him until you have to pay him. So I understand that money is going to come out of the cap, and it's going to be a lot of it. The cap's going to go up every year, but I tend to lean toward Andrew Brandt in this and say, you know what? Figure it out. You're a capologist. You've got to be able to figure that out. That said, it can be tough to figure out because they're taking a big chunk. But my thought with a quarterback, when everybody loses their mind, when Daniel Jones signed his deal, you know what it is? It's timing. And I'm talking only about the quarterback position. It's the timing. For a while, Joe Flacco was the highest paid quarterback in the league. He went on that great run in the playoffs, won the Super Bowl, and he's the highest paid player in the league. Anybody think Joe Flacco was the best quarterback in the league? No, but he had a great run. The timing was right for the run he had in the Super Bowl, and then he got paid. So that's what this is about, and it's going to happen with Joe Burrow and Justin Herbert, and now we're talking Jalen Hurts. So that's what I always say. They should have known during this season, as it was going on, he's going to be our quarterback. At some point, didn't you get that feeling?
Yeah,
I know I
absolutely.
did. So at that point, and I'm sure they did, you start figuring in what's the quarterbacks, what are they making? How do we massage that for the salary cap reasons? And what does that do for the rest of your roster? But you have to know that you have to have a really good to great quarterback at this point, it seems, to win the Super Bowl. And right now, if Aaron Rodgers ends up with the Jets, who's the best quarterback in the NFC right now? It's Jalen Hurts, right? Absolutely. I mean, who else is there? No. It's Jalen Hurts. So that's the going rate. You understand you have to pay it, and you got to figure it out.
Mike, here's the thing on dual threat. I talked to Tony Dungy, Bruce Arians, all different opinions, and Phil Simms on Friday about this. Mike, I just don't think there's a high ceiling for these guys, man. I mean, but it's something funny that Phil said. He goes, you know what, though? You're looking at it wrong. And tell me if you agree what he said. He goes, when you're a dual threat guy and you're in open space, he believes, Mike, that you have more control of the contact when you're in open space than when you do when you're sitting in the pocket. Most of the quarterbacks that get hurt are dual threat. They don't get hurt out in the perimeter. They get hurt in the pocket. So his point is Jalen knows when to get down. He's not as aggressive as Lamar. Lamar plays aggressive. The guy in Buffalo, Mike, he plays aggressive.
Yep.
So maybe it's Jalen's understanding and seeing the game, because I think he lets the game come to him. I think Lamar, he pushes the game, if that makes sense to you.
The biggest thing I worry about with dual threat quarterbacks, and they're here to stay, by the way, is
that's what Bruce said. He said, "Hey, get used to it. They're coming now. They're coming in droves now."
They are. So the biggest concern to me is when you have more confidence in your legs than your arm, which means you're going to take off and run maybe before you should. There might still be something downfield, but you have more confidence in your legs than making that throw, so you take off. Now, it takes guys a little time to get used to the pocket because you still have to be the pocket passer to be able to make the plays there. Everything else outside of that should be gravy, whether you get out of the pocket to make a play downfield or make the defense commit and then run if you have to. I agree 1,000% with Phil. When they're running the ball, running quarterback, Russell Wilson's the best sliding quarterback we've ever had. He knew when to get down. It's those quarterbacks that try and drop their shoulder and run somebody over or seek out. Now, listen, if it's coming to the end of the game and you need that yard and you're running and you see the sticks and you got to go for it, you got to go for it. There are times when you need to go for it, but there are times to bail out of bounds and there are times to slide. So the quicker a quarterback figures that out, then I agree that they're actually, safer is the wrong word, but I guess to put it what you said earlier, in more control of how that play is going to end when now they're committed and they're past the line of scrimmage and it's them running the ball. They have complete control on when that play and how that play is going to end most of the time. In the pocket, they don't, because they're looking downfield and God knows the shot they could take. Now, as you and I, as former D linemen, are bummed out, you can't really, lay a lick on them much anymore or land on them, but still, there much more can happen to them in the pocket like that for things that gets pushed in front of them by their legs or a blindside hit, or when they're rolling out and somebody falls on them and breaks their collarbone, like it's happened to Aaron Rodgers. So I do agree with that. When they run, we're all screaming, get down, but that's probably when they're in the most control.
3 last questions for you, Mike. Mike, I wonder where you are in this here. And I have a completely different look on the Deshaun Watson contract. Why aren't more players like you, me, Shannon Sharp, instead of taking shots at that guy getting a guaranteed contract, we should be screaming on the highest hill to get guaranteed contracts for everybody in the league, not just for quarterbacks. And it's got to start there, Mike, before. And look, you hear what Jim Irsay said at the owners' meetings in Arizona a couple weeks ago. I don't mind paying $50 million. I ain't giving you a guaranteed contract. And I'm thinking to myself, because you lose control of the player.
Right.
Mike, their partners are not the players. Their partners are the TV networks.
Mm-hmm.
Yep. We're just the widgets out there.
We're employees.
Which side of the aisle are you on? Again, I mean, I get the character stuff, and I'm not even talking. They're more pissed off about his contract than his character. Think about that, for instance, Mike, when it comes to Deshaun Watson, because he got a raise and a guaranteed contract in Cleveland.
Listen, every owner was horrifically mad at Haslam for doing that, for the guaranteed part, not for the Look at what Haslam did with Kareem Hunt. There you had video of him kicking someone on the ground, and they still signed him knowing he had an 8-game suspension. So them signing Deshaun Watson wasn't shocking, shouldn't have been shocking to anybody. But given that deal, especially when we have no idea who they're bidding against with that deal, so the owners don't want to do it. So listen, Dan, I will always say I want a player to get every dime he possibly can. But this is also a business. And the one thing I would tell players is, and it's so hard to do because I know I did it in the first year of free agency in '93 when that started, is to not take things personal. This is a business, and to not get emotional. But what makes this difficult with Lamar is he's his own agent. So he's right there where an agent would be hearing stuff. He's hearing stuff. That being said, it's going to take a lot, and it's going to be a quarterback. It's going to take a lot for that guaranteed contract to happen. Because while every owner is going to say Deshaun Watson is an outlier, every player, quarterback, rightfully should be saying that's a precedent. So it's out there. It happened. So that's going to continue to happen. But how far are you going to go, Dan? We can scream at the highest mountain that we want, right? Because I'd love to see it happen. And the owners are going to fight this. So the only ones that can have the effect are the quarterbacks, and how far will they go? If Lamar Jackson doesn't get a guaranteed contract, Will he then not play for the $32 million of that tag that's on him right now? And will he sit a year? I have never seen yet, Dan, I've never seen yet, unless I'm missing something,
No.
that helped the player for sitting a year. And he gave up $32 million. I mean, look at Kirk Cousins, how he played the game, and man, did it work for him. But that's what it's going to take. It's going to take that quarterback to draw that line in ink and say, I'm not walking on the field unless my contract's guaranteed. And then Baltimore, nobody else gets Lamar services, and then Lamar isn't getting paid. Same thing for Joe Burrow. Same thing for Justin Herbert. It's going to come from that. How far are they willing to go? And I just don't know if they're willing to go far enough to say, I'm not stepping foot on that field unless I get a fully guaranteed contract.
Mike, boy, speaking of Baltimore, what happened in Baltimore? I mean, they had 3 years, Mike, to get this deal done. 3 years to get it done. And is it because dual threat injuries, the way he plays the game? I mean, he's only 25, Mike. Mike, he's 25 years old. He's got an MVP. He's won over 70% of his ball games, led the NFL in touchdown passes. Why are Baltimore and the quarterback and the player in the position they're in today?
Well, the one thing that surprises me too about this team is they've been a playoff, team.
They've been brilliant in the draft and free agency.
But you know where they haven't been brilliant, Dan, is at wide receiver.
Correct.
It's almost like talking about Aaron Rodgers in Green Bay. Give me some weapons. You got Mark Andrews.
Really, the last guy, Mike, is Anquan Bolden. I mean, guys. I mean, right? That's years ago.
I know you had Hollywood Brown. You traded him away, and now you're bringing Odell. Now you give maybe 18 mil to a guy for a year to bring him in coming off an ACL, but when you had a hell of a defense, you had Andrews, you had Lamar, you didn't really do anything when you didn't have to pay Lamar. Like I said, he was great coming out. So you could have paid others to surround better, and they didn't. That surprises me a lot, that they didn't do it in the playoff runs that they had. Now, this is totally about guaranteed contracts. And in my opinion, it came at an impasse. We know what the supposed offer was of a 250 mil or whatever, 133 guaranteed, 175 guaranteed with injury, blah, 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 all that. I think it got to a point where Baltimore said, all right, we'll put this tag on you so you can go get a deal anywhere else. Anybody that wants to offer you that deal can go ahead and offer you that deal, and they give us 2 first-rounders. And I think they did it just to see what kind of deal somebody else would offer, and then they would match it. Say, okay, you went out and got that deal, we'll match it, because right now we're just at an impasse, and we see what's happening. Nobody's jumping in. And you want to say collusion. I don't even think the owners need to talk to each other to collude in the fact that they don't want guaranteed contracts. I think it is the unspoken truth of those owners that they do not want to do what Haslam did in Cleveland, and they will not do it for anything. So I think Baltimore said, go get an offer. And then, because I don't care what anybody says, bridges can always be mended. It's amazing what stacks of money can do to mend a bridge. So if they end up matching and he goes back to Baltimore, somehow I think things will be okay. But the offers aren't coming in because nobody wants that guaranteed deal. So what happens first? Who blinks first? The billionaires who aren't giving that out or gave it out one time, or the millionaire who is looking to, use Deshaun Watson, saying that's a precedent and I'm the next to do it, and then there'll be guys behind me to do it as well. That's what it is. Who blinks? And unfortunately, in most cases in the NFL, whether it's CBA, union, strikes, whatever, it's been the players, unfortunately, that have blinked first.
Final question for you. Mike, tell me what side of the aisle you're on here with Kyle Shanahan. Him and John Lynch have done such a great job at building that roster up. But for me, Mike, I think Kyle Shanahan is not a very good quarterback coach, and I'll tell you why. RG3 hurt in Washington when he was the OC. Jimmy Garoppolo hurt in San Francisco. Trey Lance hurt in San Francisco. Brock Purdy hurt in San Francisco. Mike, this guy doesn't protect his quarterbacks. I mean, he comes up with schemes, Mike, but I think he's a great play caller. But when it comes to formulating how to protect your guy, you're putting a tight end on Hassan Reddick, who ran right around that guy, and got your quarterback killed in that NFC title game, and you had a shot to win that thing. You had won 12 straight going into that thing. Am I off base here, or is it just coincidence?
No, I mean, listen, you always look at that. Whenever I see a tight end on an edge rusher, I say, okay, there's no way that should ever happen. You want to chip with a tight end or chip with a back, that's fine before they go out. But to just have them one-on-one. Dan, I'd have to go back and look at was Garoppolo's injury, was Trey Lance's injury? I know Purdy's was. With RG3 was on the sideline, wasn't it? Running out of bounds, if I remember. I don't remember where their injuries were. I know Purdy's was in the pocket.
I thought they brought him back too soon too, Mike. I thought that had something to do with he had a surgery. I'm talking RG3, and they brought him back too soon, and his ACL wasn't completely healed. But
well, that could
Mike,
be.
Is it just coincidence then? Is it just coincidence?
Again, I would have to look at, if one team starts having 5, 8, 10 players start to pull hamstrings, you start to look at the strength coach, right? And start to say, okay, what's going on here? So again, I would have to look at those injuries. I'm not saying I don't agree with your point, but I'd have to see what those injuries are. And if they are in fact, if your quarterback's getting hit by because your tight end's blocking an edge rusher, or you're just saying to hell with everything else, we're letting our 5 guys block even if someone's getting his ass kicked and not helping them at all. Yeah, I got issues with that. You got to read the room. You can't just say we're playing this protection no matter what. And if our quarterback gets hit, that's your fault on the line because you didn't block it. Yeah, it's your fault because you didn't block it. But what are we going to do? We got a lot of game to go. Do we just get our quarterback killed, or do we change our protection? So I would have to do a little bit more of a deep dive into those injuries and the hits that the quarterbacks are taking there, because that team is still ready to go. I mean,
it's them and the Eagles, right, Mike? It's them and the Eagles.
Without a doubt. And, are we getting to the point? Are they going to have to admit at some point of Trey Lance if they shouldn't have done what they did? Now, on Trey Lance's side, it's not very fair yet because he's been injured. So that's a tough call. But Brock Purdy comes in, and he's going to be the lead dog to win that starting job. And, then you're going to start to look at, was the Trey Lance thing, did it not work out? Because now you have, 2 high-pick quarterbacks on your roster and Mr. Irrelevant. And Mr. Irrelevant right now is the starter. So it is kind of odd.
Do you still have a sandwich named after you in Philly?
I did. Not anymore. For a while, I had it at Notre Dame in the restaurant they have right on campus there.
What was the sandwich called at Notre Dame?
It was like simple, like the Golic burger or Golic sandwich or something. But man, there was a lot of meat on it, my friend. I mean, there was.
Wait a minute. Between the 2 Golic brothers and then your son. I mean, what?
Listen, there was not one vegetable on that at all. It was all meats and cheeses. That's it. If you wanted any kind of vegetable, they wouldn't put it on the same plate as a sandwich.
Mike, how can people watch you? I know you're doing stuff with your boy and your podcast and all. I know you do some college football. How can they see you?
Yeah, I do. For DraftKings, my son and I both work for DraftKings. He does a pod every day. I do one once a week with a young lady named Jess Smetana. She's a Notre Dame grad from 2016. It's called Golic and Smetty. And Mike does his. It's called Gojo. And then Westwood One has the national radio contract for the NFL. So like last year, I did all the Sunday night games and the Super Bowl and the playoff games.
Did you work with Boomer?
No, I did not work with Boomer. And this was me and Ryan Radke. I'd work with Kevin Harlan, Kurt Warner, so that's what I've been doing the last couple of years. I also did college as well, but now Mike is doing the college. My son's doing the college. I'm doing the NFL. So still staying busy. Just don't have that everyday show. I may get back to that at some point. We'll see. But not getting up at 4:15 every morning has been pretty nice.
No, dude, you look way better than the vampire, because I was a vampire for about 25 years. And I used to have to go to bed at 8:30 at night, like I was 10 years old, Mike. So I don't have to do that anymore. Yeah,
it takes a toll. I would see old pictures of myself. I was like 300 and some pounds. And I'd look at my wife. I'd say, why didn't you tell me I was fat? She's like, oh, I didn't think you were. I said, look at me. I got 4 chins in this picture. I said, my God, what are you doing?
Hey, Mike, thank you so much for your time, man. I so appreciate when you find time for me. Thank you so much. Good luck to you, Mike. We'll talk down the road.
All right, Dan. Sounds good. I'll see you.
You bet. Mike Golic. We appreciate him doing that. Do me a favor, guys. Please hit the like button. Hour number 2. Don't forget we're going to have Gary Cobb with us from Fox 29. We'll reset. Keep it here on the National Football Show.
Go to get your game on. Go for the beers. Go for the cheers. Go for the hit and the hits. Go for the stakes and the stakes. Go to get your parlay on. Go to get your party on. Go for the scene. Go for the screens. Go for the gallery. Go for the win. Go to Ocean. Visit theoceanac.com to plan your visit.
When it comes to the fight against insurance companies, large corporations, and the healthcare industry, injured victims are always the underdog. But that doesn't worry us. At Messa & Associates, we're an injury law firm from Philadelphia, and we come to fight. Our clients know that they've got representation with a chip on its shoulder, and it's the same chip that makes Philly the toughest city in the country. Call 215-568-3500 or visit us online at messalaw.com. Messa & Associates, the toughest injury firm in Philadelphia.
Heading down the shore, have a ball once more.
Here, imaginations run wild and time stands still. Because here, you can find the best of the Jersey Shore, all on one 5-mile island. So leave the old you behind and get lost in the woods.
Wild, wild, wildwood days.
My name is Fran Salerno, and I'm a managing director here at Del Valle Insurance Group. Been in the business for over 36 years, saving people money on their insurance needs. Give us a call. Let us help you custom design an insurance plan that meets both your needs and budget.
They're carving them up and good play calling along the way. First and goal at the 6.
On the field of life, First Trust Bank is there for you.
Champions on 3. 1, 2, 3.
Because Philadelphia dreams deserve a Philadelphia bank.
Greg Sales, National Football Show. Appreciate you coming aboard. Thank you so much. Bottom of the hour, we will have our friend Gary Cobb on. It was great catching up with our friend Mike Golic. And at the end of the day, Mike says, yes, he would gamble on Carter. And I asked you guys a couple weeks ago this question. If Jerome Brown was at 10, would you draft him? Of course you would. Of course, that's a gamble you would welcome. Is he a recluse? Maybe. Remember something. Please do me this favor. Stop with the morality shit here. I'm looking for football players, not choir boys. Okay? Now, am I looking for people that are going to be constantly in the bullseye of the law? No. But I'm looking for football players here. And if your talent outweighs the headache, I'm drafting you. This is the Jimmy Johnson way of building a championship team. Whether it's college or the pros. You don't have, by the way, draft week, Jimmy's going to come on with us 2 days, Thursday and Friday of the draft, and give us his assessment of what he sees in what the Eagles did. Just so you know. That's already in stone. My draft analyst on Thursday and Friday is Jimmy Johnson, who built a dynasty in Dallas and then drafted for the Dolphins. Couple Hall of Famers. If you're here and you're too much of a headache and your production's here, you're out. I have no interest. You're a dumb player. But if you're one of these guys, hey, let me ask you guys this question here. Yale, everyone, would you guys draft a known drug addict in Lawrence Taylor to play football for you with the New York Giants or the Philadelphia Eagles? Would you draft a drug addict? Now knowing what we know, Parcells had to know he was a drug addict. You had to know. You had to know. Suspended, what, twice? Crack cocaine, showing up late to meetings, finding him in crack dens. The Giants were enablers in Lawrence Taylor's drug use. Bill Parcells. This is an opinion now. But after the facts, I've heard Lawrence Taylor talk about his drug use. Yeah, Yale, but would you still draft LT? Would you draft LT? Yes or no? Knowing what you know today. Would you draft Lawrence Taylor? Yes, me too. Listen to what I just did. I compromised my morality for the betterment of my football team and my success. That's what happens in the NFL. The Cleveland Browns had to pay Deshaun Watson that money to go to Cleveland. You compromise your integrity and you compromise your morality. That's what that league does. It's not about choir boys. Well, this guy here, since when does that matter? Since when does that shit matter? Would you draft Lawrence Taylor knowing what you know about him? Still today, I think he was the second overall player selected by the Giants, some shit like that. I think he was number 2 overall. Knowing full well he's a drug addict. I love the guy that goes, no, I probably wouldn't draft him because, well, then you ain't winning shit, dude. You ain't winning shit. Again, this ain't the league of choir boys. There's so many great people in the league. But you got to coach them all. Okay? Here's one better for you. This one hits home. If you knew the ending on how it ended for my friend Jerome Brown, would you still have drafted Jerome? Yes or no? Knowing the ending here, the Titanic hits the iceberg, would you still have drafted Jerome Brown? And one thing Tone said, Bijan gives you 5 years. Let the chips fall where they may. Of course you're drafting Jerome or Lawrence Taylor. Of course you are. So why should that stop you at the beginning? You hear people like Todd McShay throw that. So Todd McShay wouldn't draft Lawrence Taylor or Jerome Brown. He would draft that guy, Eric Dorsey, or he would draft Steve Ettman, guys like that. He wouldn't draft Warren Sapp. He wouldn't draft Randy Moss. Why should that shit matter on draft day? It wouldn't for those dudes if you knew. Well, I don't know, man. He's got some character issues. So did those guys. So did those dudes. Charles Haley, massive behavior issues. Would you still want Haley on your team? Haley's got 5 Super Bowl rings. Okay? Ken goes, we got 5 great years. Ken goes, we got 5 great years off of Jerome. And a lifetime of memories, Ken. And a lifetime of memories. Of course you draft Jerome. Here, let me give you an example of something here to this point. You guys remember Aldon Smith? Aldon Smith's first 43 ball games, he had 42 sacks. Now he's going to prison for DUI. Not all of them end well. Not all of them end well. Okay? 49ers and Raiders took a shot at him, gave him an opportunity. Hey, remember, at the end of the day, too, this is about player accountability and a human being's accountability and who they are. Nothing you can do as a fan, nothing you can do as an organization. All you can do is give them the vehicle to succeed. And if they don't take advantage of that, it's not on the organ. Look, if Jalen Carter comes in and plays his ass off for Philly, and by unfortunate circumstances happen, that's not on the Eagles. I'm not one of these guys that turn around and bang on an organization for taking a gamble because they wanted to be great. Dude, being great is a gamble. Because if it was so easy, everyone would be. You got to take these leaps of faith. I tell you this all the time. Believing in God's a leap of faith. It's blind faith. And believing in what your organization or believing in what your coach or believing in what people tell you is most of the time blind faith. You got to believe your coordinator's putting you in the right position. Because until you see success, it's blind faith. When I talk to the University of Miami, and I do every year, I talk to UM kids. I get on a Zoom and I talk to them. I said, your coach is in your locker room right now. How many people in here believe in the Lord? Almost 99% of them put their hand up and say, I believe in God. And I say, well, you've got to have that same blind faith in your coach, that he's going to deliver you and carry you to winning. Okay? You don't know it. You guys were 5-6 or whatever the hell you were a year ago. You don't know he can do it. You got to believe it, though. Because if you don't believe it, you're nowhere. Jalen Hurts had to have blind faith in the fact that he knew he was getting where he wanted to go. And he, you know, I'm going to tell you guys what's funny. My wife brought something up to me. My daughter won the Southern California and Southern Arizona Regional Pacific Coast Conference over the weekend. They beat Arizona State. Now they go up for the districts, and they got to play Stanford and BYU. Then they go on to the national championship in Houston. You know what she said? Dad, you know, I showed up to the program. There were about 10 or 15 people that were better than me. You know what I told her? You outwork them, don't worry. You'll just be flying by them. And you'll be going by them if you just keep working and keep believing. Keep working, keep believing. Keep working, keep believing. Hard work beats talent every time. Now, you run into a guy like Jordan, that's a different conversation because you do run into those dudes. And those dudes are unbeatable. They're just unbeatable with insane talent. But there's so few of those people. Those are the 1%ers of the 1%ers. I can't tell you. I showed up at the University of Miami. There was probably 25 guys that I thought were better than me. I left there. There was one. Okay, I left there. There was one D tackle better than me, and he played in Philly. You can outwork these dudes. My daughter goes, Dad, I played against a girl at Arizona State, and she was so good, but now? My wife goes, that's because you're getting better. Right. It's blind faith. You got to believe, man. You got to believe where you're going and the things you're doing to get you there. And you don't see signs sometimes. You're like, Jesus, am I doing it right? Am I going places? Am I going somewhere? Sometimes, to get to greatness, you've got to travel many, many, many miles in the dark. And then all of a sudden, you come out of the tunnel. You eventually come out of the tunnel. But you're in the dark the majority of the journey. 85 says Carter 10, Smith at 30, Gibbs 62, Brent's at 94. Man, so you're going to be an even smaller defense if you go get the kid Smith. You're already a tiny bunch of dudes. Outside of your tackles, you're little everywhere. Corners, linebacker, edge rushers. So you want to get smaller? Outside of Jordan Davis and outside of Fletcher Cox, where's your size in your defense? Dude, you got a bunch of little dudes over there. Nakobe Dean is a little dude. Hassan Reddick is a little dude. I'm telling you, man, if I had a football team with a decent O-line, I'm going to run the ball at you guys because you couldn't stop it last year. Now you lost 5 of your top tacklers, and you're smaller. You're a small defense. Look at the sizes. They're small. It's a small team. Not a very good tackling team. So wait a minute. You're smaller this year, and you're going to be lesser of a tackling team. And you want to go smaller with this kid, Nolan Smith. Man, I don't know. So you're going to have two guys on your edge at 6 feet, 230 pounds. Man, that's some tiny dudes. And your Mike linebackers, 205. And you want to run a 34. Dude, I mean, look, you're not a very big team on that side of the ball. You're gargantuan on offense. But you're a little dude. Small in speed. So you think that plays out over 17 NFL games? That you're going to be able to run away from people? No way. You're a little team on defense. That's the land. You should start calling that defense the Philadelphia Munchkins. They're little tiny guys. You want to go smaller with Nolan Smith. All right. I don't know. Good football player. But you got to have some more size on that line. Or at least in your linebackers. It worked last year? Wait a minute. Look at Roland. Well, Linville Joseph was 335. Sue was 318. Jordan was 335. Fletcher was 320. Now, you got two dudes that are 300-pound guys in your defense in the middle. And you got a linebacker that's 205. And you've lost Hargrave, who was a 300-pounder himself. Hassan Reddick is small, yes. Exclamation point. And what's Sweat, 255? Yeah, that's small. Yes, small. I didn't say short. I said small. Small. 230? Small. Okay, so a 285-pound D end today in the NFL? Okay, you better be J.J. Redick. Sorry, dude. You're a small team. Okay, how you want to, whatever. We'll agree to disagree. You're tiny. Now you want to put Nolan Smith out there at 6'2", 230-something. I don't know. I don't know. Me? I'd rather trade out of that pick and get more picks. Okay? And get some, like the Lucas Van Ness guy or whatever the hell he is. Guy never started at Iowa. People want to draft, the Eagles draft him at 10. I'm like, man, you can't start in the shitty Big Ten and you can't start at Iowa, but you're going to start against the Cowboys. Okay. Why should I draft you? You couldn't even beat out the other two dudes on your team? Yeah, but still, he's got first-round talent. Well, shit, it never showed up then. It never showed up where he won So I can't fathom that. You never started in college. I mean, seriously. So, and you didn't start at Iowa. It's not like that's a 10-win team every year. I mean, I don't know, man. I have a huge problem with that. So you can't start at Iowa or the Big Ten, but you're going to start in the NFC East. And you're going to play the Cowboys and the Eagles and the Giants. Okay. I think the kid Breezy's okay. But again, if the Eagles are this close to the Super Bowl, take the guy who can help you win it. Brian Breezy's not going to help you win the Super Bowl. Bijan Robinson is going. All these guys you guys are mentioning and bringing up, it's a joke. It's a joke. Dude, if there was a quality, and by the way, please stop with the veteran wideouts. Odell Beckham gets $15 to $18 million in Baltimore. That's, you know what that is? Do you know what that is? Do you actually really believe that that lure or that thing that you put at the end of the fishing pole to try to lure Lamar Jackson back in, you think that's really going to do it? He must be looking at that going, you think I'm stupider than I've been treated. Odell Beckham, so you're going to overpay just to show Lamar that they're serious about bringing him back with a player who's been more injured than the quarterback. How's that? You'll pay $15 to $18 million for a wide receiver who hasn't been healthy in the last 5 years. But you'll bitch and moan about Lamar? Man, boy, Baltimore, man, that is not the same franchise. Seals, if Carter's not there at 10, I think Howie trades back. He should, because there's nobody there that's going to help your team this year. And you need volume picks because he's not that hot in the draft. O-line, hey, personally, if one of those guys isn't there, Jalen Carter or Bijan Robinson, or they don't trade up to get Will Anderson, I'm taking an O-lineman. They're spectacular at that. Instead of moving Cam Jurgens over, he can actually put a guy in the guard position like a Paris Johnson, put his ass there. And then look at the line you have. Hey, can I tell you this? Paris Johnson helps Jalen Hurts more than Myles Murphy. I'm looking to help Jalen. That's why I think Chicago takes an O-lineman. Dude, Myles Murphy doesn't win the Super Bowl. Paris Johnson might help you win it. You put that big horse at guard next to Lane and Jason and then Landon Dickerson and then Mulata. Poof, man, what a line. Dude, seriously, the Toledo would be screaming with size. That's how you kill teams. Right there, the Eagle way, baby. Myles Murphy. Give me Paris Johnson any day. Any day. Myles Murphy. You guys stupid? Dude, this team is a player away, and you're going to start talking to me about some insignificant guy that's at number 10, Miles Murphy. There's 3 dudes in this draft. Once again, 3 dudes. Bijan, Will Anderson, and Jalen Carter. That's it. Maybe the kid from Tech, Tyree Wilson. The rest of them, they're good ball players. That could help the Eagles win the Super Bowl. Getting a right guard like a Paris Johnson helps Jalen. Protects 50. You can't have a $50 million quarterback with a $2 O-line. And the Eagles don't have a $2 O-line. They got a $15 million center and 2 $15 million tackles. You want to know why Jalen Hurts is developing? How you doing? Okay. Let's go to JAKIB. And we had Mike Golic out with us in the first hour. And I presented this to him, Gary. I said, hey, man, if Jalen Carter's there at 10, knowing that you played next to JB, you knew JB as well. Mm-hmm. That's what I love about the guys I get on here. You guys all knew my friend. And he said he would take him. And I'm going to re-ask the question after all the things. Here, I'm going to ask you the most difficult question of all time, and I posed this out there, Gary. I said, after knowing all the things you know and how it ended for Jerome, would you still draft him? Knowing all the things that you know about Lawrence Taylor today, would you still draft Lawrence Taylor? Would you? I mean, hey,
yeah, without a doubt. Come on, without a doubt. There are players that come in that really draw something out of the other players that is special, and that's what really a lot of the guys had. With Jerome, was that he not only pushed himself, he pushed all the other guys around him. So there was just kind of, he made the whole thing more fun, and even though he would get in your face. He didn't have a problem. He wasn't, and when he came in there as a rookie, he wasn't afraid of anybody to look. Come on, man. So, and you saw the way he played in the fact that even as he was getting used to the NFL, he played hard. He was going to give you everything he had. He enjoyed it. And that's the thing is he made the work. He just brought a fun part to it, and so you had a good time with Jerome, but you were going to play hard, and he was going to call you out, and there was a kind of thing where he was going after greatness, he was going after that, and there was that hunger in there because you guys had established some things down there in Miami, and all these guys, because I got a chance to play with Michael Irvin too, and you see that same enthusiasm, where there's a it's fun, but like I said, you turn around and you do something, this guy's in your face, and both of them had those type of leadership qualities, and they just had a magnetism and personality. That's why a team with both of those guys on it, you're going to have a team. If they're not winning the national championship, they're going to be knocking on the door every year because you got
Gary,
guys.
Don't you agree that team with Clyde Simmons and Reggie and Seth and even Buddy, kind of there's some similarities here because you have Brandon Graham, Cox, Jalen Hurts, Jason Kelsey, that if a kid like that gets in your building, okay, there's a set of standards that you have to live by because get this, people shit on Carson Wentz all the time. I'm going to tell you something, Gary. I think that clubhouse and that locker room has learned a lot, not letting it get sideways and off the rails any longer. And I think that was one of the greatest tests of all time for Lane and all those guys. That might be just the perfect environment for him.
I think so, because they are going to make him grow up. You're going, the certain things in this type of atmosphere, because you do have guys that come to the league where they've been the best in their area, wherever team they were on, they were so good and everything. And they could come where they still have that ability, but they've got things where they're not working hard every day. They're not doing, all of the things. And then they're leaving some things off the field, that they're not handling in their business. Well, when you're around older guys who have played the game and demanded excellence out of themselves and the people they're around, that's the kind of guy you want young players. Those guys are the kind that young players can be around, and where they're going to enjoy them. At the same time, they're going to call them. They're going to make them grow up. They embarrass them in front of everybody. They got no problem doing that, and make the guy grow up. And they're going to have to grow up right now because the season's not far away, and they're going to make those guys grow up, and that's what they need. And those guys, hopefully, they go to a team like that because it's going to eliminate a lot of problems that they have, because they go to a place where they're the best on the field. It's not as good.
How about this one, Gary? I mean, there's a big conversation now. You and I and everybody, Philly 500 and all these guys, we were talking about Bijan about a month ago on him being the right selection for this team. And I still hold to this, and I'll tell you why. Again, there's not a player in this draft that can help this team more, because I wrote this down. Get this, Gary, so check it out.
Yeah.
Miles Sanders, would it be shocking if I told you he had the 8th greatest single season rushing season in Philadelphia Eagle history? That is also double-digit touchdowns. Mm-hmm. You're just not going to replace that with your quarterback now, having to take more hits with a collection of running backs. I mean, they're going to do it by committee. You didn't do it by committee last year, and that kid was still trending for 200 carries. I mean, that guy could help your football team right now. And Gary, so what if you only get 5 years out of him? If you win a Super Bowl, who cares?
That's right. Now, I tell you, the thing you mentioned, though, you mentioned Jalen Hurts. See, if drafting him means that you don't have to let Jalen carry the ball as much, that's tremendous right there, because you want to take the ball out of Jalen's hands more. As I'm talking about running the ball.
Correct.
Because you do not want him getting injured. You want to take the ball out of his hands. If you had a young kid like Robinson, who you could give the ball to, nearly 20 times a game, if you could do that and you don't give the ball to Jalen, come on. If that's a tremendous for this football team, because you don't want Jalen getting hurt. You just want Jalen executing the offense, pitching the ball to these guys, but you don't want him getting hit. You don't want that. You want to reduce that more this year than they did last year, because people are going to say, look, every shot we get at Jalen Hurts, those are the biggest plays in the game for us. They're not going to come out and say we're trying to hurt him. But, really the truth is they are. They know that's going to change the game. So they're going to pound. If they get a chance to pound them, you do not want to give teams a chance to pound on Jalen Hurts.
How about this on Friday? I didn't look at it this way, Gary, and I wonder if you do. We had Phil Simms on with us.
Mm-hmm.
And I go, Phil, these dual threat guys. He goes, let me tell you something. Let me stop you there. And the thinking that people don't play into this. He goes, the problem in Baltimore is that Lamar is so aggressive in how he approaches the game. The same with Josh Allen. He goes, you are a dual threat guy. You're less likely to get hurt in the open space, because Phil says you have more control over the contact than you do when you're in the pocket. I never looked at it like that, Gary. He goes, hey, Lamar got hurt in the pocket. He didn't get hurt out in the perimeter. He got hurt in the pocket. You have no control of that, where guys are flying around you. Do you subscribe to that? That if you
I think it's true. And see,
Jalen gets down, he's smarter.
Yeah. Well, but the thing is, when they're running that, where he's faking that ball in there, and you are in a crowd there, somebody misses a block, a guy gets a shot at you, even at times if something goes wrong and you just go down on the ground, you got a guy hit you. Because I'm thinking about in the game that Jalen got hurt, I guess it was Chicago. He was in a tight area.
He was.
And the guy got a shot at him. He took his shot. And you're going to have guys take the shot. That's why
And that was probably the biggest shot of the year.
It
right?
was.
I mean, of all the times he's done really a nice job, especially on the sidelines outside of that preseason game against the Jets.
Yeah.
That was probably the biggest hit of the year for him, correct?
It was the biggest hit of the year for him. And without a question, he kept on playing, but he was hurt. And they do not want that happening this year because he is too important to the team. They don't need him missing time. They want to be able to run their offense. But I would like to see them, if you go ahead and get a kid like Robinson behind this line, I don't want Jalen carrying the ball as much.
Right.
Whatever you got to do, they got to get that. They got to get away from that. And I think drafting him, if that means taking the ball out of Jalen's hand, where you are going to have less chance of him getting injured, then I think that's worth the pick.
I want to throw this at you here. I saw something in the chat room, and I never thought about this. Tell me what you make of this. And I'm thinking of it, and I'm processing it now. How much of an impact do you think the Eagles are seeing in the drafting over these last couple of years with the miss of Justin Jefferson? How much do you think that has impacted where they are today? Think about it. You wouldn't have to pay $25 million for A.J. Brown.
Yeah.
You'd have two bookend wide receivers.
Mm-hmm.
One of them still on a rookie deal. You'd be working on, hey, that'd be another nightmare for Howie, though, because then he'd be up, and now you're talking about Jalen Hurts being up.
Yeah.
But what I'm saying, how much of an impact do you think them missing on Justin Jefferson has been on their drafting over the last 5 years or 4 years?
Well, I mean, it's been huge. I mean, because they missed on him, and because of that, that you didn't even get a player that is capable of even being a decent receiver
or special teams even.
That's right. I mean, so you missed there, and when I look at the team, they really rebuilt this team, and they had to go out and get make a move like they did with A.J. Brown. And you cough up that $25 million a year. They had to do it if they wanted to have a marquee guy there, which is what you want to have if you got a young quarterback. You want some receivers where somebody's open when this guy drops back. He looks, there's going to be somebody open, and in order to go out and get that type of a marquee guy, it's going to cost you big dollars now. And so that's why you would like to be dealing with rookies, younger players, rather than a guy where you got to fork off $25 million a year for him.
How about this one, Gary? First off, have you ever, in your years playing the game, covering the game, ever seen a rapid rise like this for a player from Hurts? I mean, Gary, April 10th of last year, we're talking about whether the kid's a quarterback that can play in this league. Today, we're debating whether it's a 7 or 10 year or 6 year deal at $50 million annually. I mean, have you ever seen anything like this where a guy just climbed Everest in like 12 months? Have you seen anything like it?
I enjoyed that year last year, but it was like it was from something that was beyond earth. I mean, it was amazing year he had. I mean, the throws that he was making, the accuracy, the decisions he was making. You got to make all these decisions where he's putting that ball in there, pulling it out. But every time when to run, when not to run, and everything. He was just making great decisions all year long, and of course, culminating with the great game at the Super Bowl. But it was very rare that you see a guy make that type of move where you have that type of a year, because he was playing on an MVP level. I mean, he's playing there where he's going to be in competition to be MVP because he has such an effect of both on the passing game and the running game.
Maybe Terrell Davis from being a scout team guy to being the Hall of Fame running back, but I mean, for the quarterback position, though, I mean,
amazing year.
Gary, look at the NFC. Dak Prescott, overachiever.
Yeah.
Jalen Hurts, overachiever. And what I mean by that is these guys weren't drafted in the first round like you see all those guys in the AFC.
That's right.
That were drafted either the first pick, top 14. Even Mahomes was a first rounder. I mean, he's not an underachiever. He's guy, or an overachiever. I mean,
the thing is he going to do that this year? So, can he repeat? Can he stay in that same area? That's a high
I
area.
agree.
I mean, like,
I think
can
that's
he be as
that's
accurate?
the topic, though. And Gary, though, here,
Yeah.
that's why I keep asking people. So, do you really believe 17 games, Gary, is enough to give a guy $50 million over 7 years per year?
It's a lot of money.
And get this,
no.
they bombed. They bombed with Wentz.
I know. The thing is, you know, his timing, of course, the timing was great for him, you know, to where he peaks like that. Prior to that, come on, so many people had doubts about him. I mean, if anybody's going to be honest, they were doubting, and they're going, no, we don't know about this kid. Nobody was saying, oh, we know. Now, do I want to see him do it again? Yeah, I want to see him do it again because his decision-making, the reading, I mean, for him to make that big of a jump in 1 year, it was startling. And so it's, you know, there are going to be people looking to say, can he do that again?
You think he had the same uphill climb, the same thing? Because when I watched Lamar Jackson, when he took over for Joe Flacco, I went, this guy can't hit the broadside of a barn. He won't be in the league. Next year's the MVP. I'm like, holy shit. I couldn't believe it. And Phil Simms was touting. He goes, let me tell you something, man. Anybody who doesn't think that guy can throw the ball, you're nuts. I get around him. I know him. He is a ball player.
Yeah.
Maybe somebody like that, right, Gary? Lamar Jackson, because he had a big climb to the MVP. He was unanimous.
Yeah, he did. And, you know, even though, you know, he had a great year, but, you know, he was making spectacular plays. I mean, from the standpoint where, you know, he's got the speed to be able to make people miss and everything. So teams are, I think, playing him a little differently now. But the thing with Jalen was that he was spreading the ball around, and his decision-making was so superb. You wonder, can he be that good again? I mean, to make so many good decisions, whether it be throwing the ball with his handoffs, when to leave that ball in there, when to pull it out. Every play, he is making a big decision, which is a lot to ask. So that's why I think, you know, for him to repeat that type of year, it's going to be amazing.
Hey, Gary, I'm going to here's the last thing we're hit on here. I wrote down the 10 best Eagle draft picks since 2000. I got the top 10 best Eagle picks since 2000. I have Devontae at 10.
Okay.
I have LaShawn McCoy at 9.
Okay.
Who was a second rounder.
Yep.
I got Trent Cole at 8, who was a 5th rounder in 2005. I have Deshaun Jackson at 7, who was a second rounder in 2008. At 6, Lito Shepherd, 2002, was a first rounder. I got Brandon Graham at 5, 2010, a first rounder. I got Fletcher Cox at 4, 2012 first rounder. I got Brian Westbrook, 2002 third rounder. Lane Johnson, 2013 first rounder, number 2. And Jason Kelsey, number 1, 6th rounder, 7.
Wow. Yeah,
you like the list?
I mean, I like that list. You know, of course, with Jason, you know, being just such an amazing pick.
6th rounder.
Yeah, that's right. You know, I don't know if I'd have Lito up there as high. I mean, because, you know, Lito was a first round pick. Yeah. But, you know, like, you
don't think Lito lived up to the,
well,
to the billing?
you know, I mean, he became a Pro Bowler and everything, but he wasn't, year after year Pro Bowler. Whereas I think somebody like Trent Cole, I think Trent Cole had a lot of good years, man.
He was a 5th rounder.
That's right. Yeah, you know, and that's what I'm saying. That was a great pick. I mean, for a 5th rounder, what Trent Cole did for the Eagles. I mean, he had a lot of double-digit sack seasons. A 5th rounder, I think he should be.
How about Westbrook, a 3rd rounder in 2002?
Now, hey, I was just looking at Westbrook. About a month ago, they had the event I was at with him, and I would tell him all the time, man, I was amazed that he could carry the weight because for a while he was carrying the offense. I mean, they're giving the ball to him 30 times. Little guy like that. And it probably shortened his career because he wasn't that big, but man, he
was
ran
Christian
hard.
McCaffrey before Christian McCaffrey.
That's right. He was.
Would you agree,
he was a
Gary,
great
that
back.
he's probably the most dynamic Philadelphia Eagle offensive player over a span of time than anyone they've had since 2000 outside the quarterback position?
I would say so.
Brian Westbrook had the most impact on offense.
Westbrook carried the offense. He was running the ball, and they were throwing it to him 10 times. I mean, he's carrying the ball 25 times, and they're throwing it to him 10 times. I mean, he carried that offense because he would make that first guy miss, and he would always get yardage. And for a little guy, man, he was a tough son of a gun. He really had some great seasons, but he took a pounding. It probably shortened his career because guy's not that big, man. He's that big, man.
Yeah, no, I got you. Hey, real quick before we leave here, let me ask you this.
Yeah.
At 10, if Carter and they don't move up for Anderson and they're not going to take Bijan, I don't think they would.
Yeah.
If those three decisions aren't there, hey, Gary, that guy Hooker from Tennessee is now rapidly flying up the board.
Yeah.
There could be 5 quarterbacks taken. If you're Howie, do you trade out of that pick for more picks to trade down and get more picks this year?
You said it. Howie's going to trade out of that pick. If somebody's coming on, they got a boatload that they're going to give him, and that could be somebody that's there, and how it's like a guy meets a girl. He gets infatuated with this girl. He can't get her off his mind. That's the way the guys are about quarterbacks before the draft. And that's probably going to happen to somebody. And then Howie's going to pick their pocket because he's going to get a lot. And I think he's going to be willing to trade down. I would not be surprised at all if that happens, because what you're saying is you see the way it's starting to happen where these guys start getting the hots for these quarterbacks.
Yeah.
And then somebody's going to
They panic.
I just got to have him. I just got to have him. And
they panic, right?
That's what they do. That's what they do. And Howie's good with those people. And I bet you he probably already got his eye on a couple of them right now that he knows are headed that way. And they're going to be able to make that move. And Howie, he hasn't been greatest when it comes to picking, but he's done a great job in the draft because he fleeces people, man. He takes them to the cleaners. And I think he's going to be taking somebody to the cleaners at the draft this year.
Absolutely. 17 days out from the NFL draft in Kansas City. Gary, thank you, my friend. I appreciate it.
Have a good one.
You got it. The great Gary Cobb, who joins us every week. And we're so grateful that he joins us each and every single week. All right, hit the like button. Keep it here on the National Football Show.
Go to get your game on. Go for the beers. Go for the cheers. Go for the hit and the hits. Go for the stakes and the stakes. Go to get your parlay on. Go to get your party on. Go for the scene. Go for the screens. Go for the gallery. Go for the win. Go to Ocean. Visit theoceanac.com to plan your visit.
When it comes to the fight against insurance companies, large corporations, and the healthcare industry, injured victims are always the underdog. But that doesn't worry us. At Messa & Associates, we're an injury law firm from Philadelphia, and we come to fight. Our clients know that they've got representation with a chip on its shoulder, and it's the same chip that makes Philly the toughest city in the country. Call 215-568-3500 or visit us online at messalaw.com. Messa & Associates, the toughest injury firm in Philadelphia.
Heading down the shore, have a ball once more.
Here, imaginations run wild and time stands still. Because here, you can find the best of the Jersey Shore, all on one 5-mile island. So leave the old you behind and get lost in the woods.
Wild, wild, wild wood days.
My name is Fran Salerno, and I'm Managing Director here at Del Valle Insurance Group. Been in the business for over 36 years, saving people money on their insurance needs. Give us a call. Let us help you custom design an insurance plan that meets both your needs and budget.
They're carving them up and good play calling along the way. First and goal at the 6.
On the field of life, First Trust Bank is there for you.
Champions on 3. 1, 2, 3.
Because Philadelphia dreams deserve a Philadelphia bank.
Greg Popovich talking gun control. Win some basketball games, dude. Jesus criminy. We're so stupid with that shit, man. Like, people think they care what you think about gun control. Remember something about that. And I'm not, this is not political. You'll never cure it. It's the maniacs. A maniac has no political affiliation, no religion. It's got nothing to do with race. He's a maniac. Whoever it is, you're a maniac. Maniacs kill. Greg Popovich. It's like blaming a knife that you eat for dinner. What a jerk. Just an absolute asshole. Anyway. So Odell Beckham signs a $15 to $18 million deal because they think that's the hook that will get Lamar Jackson back into Baltimore. Man. Unbelievable. So you sign a broken down player for a player who you accuse of being broken down. Explain that one to me. Your problem that you have with Lamar is he gets hurt. And then you turn around and sign a guy who hasn't been healthy for 5 years and struggles with health himself. And you give him and you overpay. Nobody on the planet would have given him $15 million. How many people think Odell Beckham is a number one guy? Hey, man, guess what? Cam Newton looked good at Pro Day at Auburn, too. You see Cam Newton throwing the ball around at Pro Day for Auburn? He looked like a star. NFL guys go, it's funny. You know what they look at? They look at Cam Newton and go, dude, it's Pro Day. Same thing with Odell. Odell on videos, catching it with one hand. Bro, nobody said your talent. It's about your health. You're not a healthy player. So you overpaid for a guy who breaks down, and now you're bitching about a guy and giving him money for a guy you accuse of breaking down. Odell Beckham Jr. on the Eagles would be the third dude. He'd be the third dude. Hey, who would you rather have, Sills, Odell Beckham Jr. or Devontae Smith? I'll take Smith. Yeah, but Odell's the more talented. Whoa. You mean he's the more athletically gifted player? Yes. But Devontae's going to be there for 17 ball games. The other guy's not. And he's not very good in the run game. Not that I want Devontae getting in there, scrapping it up with corners and free safeties and banging on them. Not that I want that. But my guy's on a rookie deal. He had 95 catches last year. I'm good. $15 million for a broken down car. Boy, Baltimore, man, it has just like not I don't get it. Why? This Eric DaCosta, boy, I'll tell you something, man. She's the closest thing I've seen to Jim Buss when he ran the Lakers. This guy is not Ozzie Newsome. Wow. They went from Ozzie Newsome to this Eric DaCosta guy, and this Eric DaCosta is just a complete drop-off as general manager. A massive drop-off. Look at the defense. They don't hit on draft choices. They don't hit on free agents. They're in a bitching match with their quarterback. And he was an MVP. They haven't gotten this thing right in 3 years. I mean, dude, man, I don't know what happened. Oh, yeah, you do. I should say it. Yeah, as he stepped aside, they thought this guy was going to take over because he was handpicked by everybody in the organization, and he shit the bed. Dude, Devontae all day is right. What? Hey, who's going to make the highlight reel more for his Instagram and his highlight reel on ESPN? Odell Beckham or Devontae? Odell Beckham for sure. But who's going to be the better player for you at the end of the day? Devontae Smith. Devontae Smith's a better player than Odell Beckham. He's a better player. OBJ's more talented. Again, not living up to your billing. You're always hurt. You're always hurt. I don't get it. So you think that brings and lures back Lamar? Why don't you go get DeAndre Hopkins? Odell Beckham? What's that do? DeAndre Hopkins is the pick. And you could have got him for $13 million. Instead, you get the broken down receiver. DeAndre Hopkins helps Lamar Jackson, not Odell Beckham. DeAndre Hopkins, hey, watch this. DeAndre Hopkins compared to A.J. Brown. Well, the only thing A.J. Brown has over him is that he's healthier. DeAndre Hopkins is a better player. But because he's so young, at 25, A.J., I'd probably take him because he's younger. Okay? Dude, you hope A.J. Brown has DeAndre Hopkins' career. You hope he has that career. Guy was on pace for 120 catches till he got hurt. I mean, he was on pace for 120 catches, 1,300, 1,400 yards. That guy's got shit in the tank still, dog. Snoop is the quarterback. I like Snoop, man. I like Tyler Huntley. I do. I like the kid a lot. I hope he gets his opportunity. I'm a big fan of his. Works hard. Teammates love him. I'm a big fan of his. Kyle Whittingham loved him at Utah. He's a South Florida kid. I know a lot of people who knew him down there in South Florida. Another kid who got away from the Canes. I have no idea how. Had to go to Utah to play ball the same way Lamar had to leave South Florida to go to Louisville. Whatever. Okay. AJ caught for 1,300. Yeah, well, DeAndre was on pace for 1,400 yards this last year before he got injured. And the way I looked at it, outside of this last season, all these catches he had, I think 9 games, 10 games last year, he had 65 catches. DeAndre Hopkins had 65 catches, I think, in like 10 games, 9 games, whatever it was. That would have been the third best year A.J. Brown's ever had in catches. That dude's a machine. AJ's younger. You go with the younger player, especially at that position, and he fits the offense better. You see, that's another thing too. You know, all the people talking about not wanting B.J. Robinson at the 10th pick. You don't have a Patrick Mahomes offense. You're not a Joe Burrow offense. Your offense relies on establishing the run first. Teams are not afraid of the air attack in Philadelphia. They're afraid of getting blown off the ball. Dude, when you play Philly, I don't give a shit about your passing game. Your passing game is a result of your dominance at the point of attack with that RPO. Without the run, there's a reason it's not pass RO. It's RPO, run pass option. You start with the running game. The running game establishes, you can't run RPOs. Shit, you can run an RPO even if your quarterback's shitty. You can't run an RPO if you have no run game. It's just a PO. I think it's more of a POS. It's more of a POS, man. Hey, what kind of offense do you have in New York with the Jets as of now? It's a POS, a piece of you know what. That's the kind of offense you have. Yeah, I don't think Howie drafts well at all. No, he doesn't draft well at all. I pointed it out. He drafted 30 DBs since 2000. 30. You've drafted 27 wide receivers since 2000. How do you think you're doing there? Devontae Smith, Jeremy Maclin. Out of 30 receivers, you got 2. 2. I got to have that sheet still, man. It's classic. Keep on motivating? No, I'm just telling you who you are. Okay? I'm just, wait a minute. Hey, boy, you don't like to hear your history? That's a you thing. All right. Hour number 3. We will reset why you should take Bijan at number 10. Appreciate it. Keep it here on the National Football Show.
Go to get your game on. Go for the beers. Go for the cheers. Go for the hit and the hits. Go for the stakes and the stakes. Go to get your parlay on. Go to get your party on. Go for the scene. Go for the screens. Go for the gallery. Go for the win. Go to Ocean. Visit theoceanac.com to plan your visit.
When it comes to the fight against insurance companies, large corporations, and the healthcare industry, injured victims are always the underdog. But that doesn't worry us. At Messa & Associates, we're an injury law firm from Philadelphia, and we come to fight. Our clients know that they've got representation with a chip on its shoulder, and it's the same chip that makes Philly the toughest city in the country. Call 215-568-3500 or visit us online at messalaw.com. Messa & Associates, the toughest injury firm in Philadelphia.
Heading down the shore, have a ball once more.
Here, imaginations run wild and time stands still. Because here, you can find the best of the Jersey Shore, all on one 5-mile island. So leave the old you behind and get lost in the woods.
Wild, wild, wild days.
My name is Dan Sileo, and I'm Managing Director here at Del Valle Insurance Group. Been in the business for over 36 years, saving people money on their insurance needs. Give us a call. Let us help you custom design an insurance plan that meets both your needs and budget.
They're carving them up and good play calling along the way. First and goal at the 6.
field of life, First Trust Bank is there for you.
Champions on 3. 1, 2, 3.
Because Philadelphia dreams deserve a Philadelphia bank.
Big Stills, National Football Show, hour number 3. See, here's the kind of guy like here when you point something out on who you are. This is not trolling. This is facts. Since 2000, you've drafted 37 DBs. How do you think you've done at that position in the draft? Since Howie's been in the building. Underdog, how do you think you've done drafting DBs? Everyone else, you help them. How do you think they've done drafting secondary guys? Your entire secondary right now is all trades and free agents. You've not drafted well there. Even last hour, Gary Cobb went like this. Lito Shepherd never really lived up to the first round billing. He was good, but not what everyone thought. So tell me, how do you think you've done at DB? How about this one? Defensive ends. You've drafted 26 defensive ends. How well do you think you drafted there at end? Wide receiver, you've drafted 25 of them. How well do you think you've done at wide receiver since 2000? By the way, I think that's a great topic. How much impact do you think missing on Justin Jefferson has been to the offense and the growth of the team? None? Little? You had to go traded first-round pick because you failed at wide receiver. Here, your history is failing at wide receiver. Okay? No. Hoss, this isn't just a Chip Kelly. It's 2000. This is 23 years of drafting since Howie's been in the building at the NovaCare Center. 23 years. This is not Chip Kelly shit. This is 23. Okay? I mean, 16 running backs, 23 linebackers. How well do you think you've done at linebacker? Honestly, how well do you think you've done a linebacker in the draft? You've been a bomb. DB suck. Edge rushers suck. Receiver sucks. Hey, landing on one doesn't erase 3 decades of failure. Don't put some lie out there that this organization has been landing on. You've never had a 100-catch wide receiver in your entire history, and you guys are making it, some of you are at least, are making it sound like you land on these guys in these pods every year. Not true. Yale goes like this. I'm not jumping on them for that. The team wins more losses and went to the Super Bowl. That's right. Because what Howie does is Howie's good at making deals in free agency. He's not good in the draft. That's okay. He covers his mistakes with free agency. His 2 corners were terrible. He had to make a trade, and he signed a free agent. He couldn't draft one. Linebackers had to sign Kaiser White, got a kid off the street in TJ Edwards. The best defensive interior lineman was also a trade, was Javon Hargrave with the Steelers. Now he's in San Francisco. You got right on Fletcher. Brandon developed, looks like Josh Sweat is. You had to go get a pass rusher. You couldn't draft a pass rusher. So you got Hassan Reddick. This is not, those are facts. Those are absolute facts. That's what you're pointing out here. And again, the dynamic this year, look, April 10th, 2023 is completely different than 2000. 22, April 10th. You know why? Last year you had latitude and you had the ability to spend money. Now you don't. That's why you're shopping at the dollar store. That's why you've got to hit on your draft picks this year. Until 2 years ago, Howie Roseman was public enemy number one in Philadelphia. You acknowledge his draft history, and now you're a troll. It's hilarious. Well, it's the same thing, though, Tone, that because when you bring up the fact that 99.9% of the people in Philadelphia hated the second-round pick out of Oklahoma, and all of a sudden now everyone is now saying how much they love the pick, and they're lying. It's human nature. You try to revise history when you can, and that's what people do. Howie made some mistakes? No. This is 3 decades of them. No. 3 decades. Which means it's a trend. Understand this. This is not, you know what, Tone? I don't think I explained myself good enough here. This is not to bash Howie. This is to get kind of the game plan and understand their nature and how they operate and how they do business. How many times have I said I think the organization is one of the best organizations in all the NFL? The front office is one of the best front offices. Look at the coaches they've hired since 2000. Every coach has a winning record, including Chip Kelly. I've never said anything other than that. But what you're trying to do is you're trying to get an understanding of how they operate as drafters and team builders. They're in a precarious situation this year compared to where they've been in the past. Why? Well, they've got to have Jordan Davis, who they overdrafted a year ago, step up and play bigger. Jacoby Dean has to be an impact. And with the drafting history that they've had, they've never landed on any of these guys to step up and be big players. That's where this is. I could give a shit if his name is Howie Roseman, Howie Smith. How do you build your team is all I give a shit about. That's all I'm saying. Sileo, you're trying to keep it real and keep this team as lethal exactly as possible. And you can't have a future if you ignore you. That's right. Because if you keep going down the history of your failure, you're going to land in the failure bucket again. They don't draft linebackers. Okay? Sign one. They did. Chicago. They don't sign safeties or draft safeties. Okay? They signed one. They got a defensive tackle. They're not very good at that position. They signed one. New Orleans. Actually, I like the Saints sign because after the first really 3 defensive tackles, I think the nosedive is significant. I think the guy that they got, get this, the guy that they got from New Orleans would probably be the 3rd best defensive tackle in this draft. Dude, I don't care. This is not a bashing session on Howie. Because to Tone's point, Sills, you think he's really great at deals? Absolutely. You think he's great at spotting pro talent? He's a better pro talent evaluator than he is college talent evaluator. He's better at that. And he's really, look, here's. So I guess that we have to make you feel better sometimes because some of you are so soft and snowflakes. I'll give you a Howie so make you feel better so you can put your little heads on your pillow tonight. When you go and trade for Slay and he turns into a damn good Eagle, and then you turn around and find CJ and New Orleans making only $830,000, those are brilliant moves. Those are brilliant moves. Trading the 1st-round pick instead of gambling on Jalen Reagor, go get AJ. He did. Great move. But sitting around telling me this guy's a drafter is insane. But that's okay. There's more than one area. He's not great at everything. Who is? Well, one guy. The thing is, a GM can't be great at everything. Correct. And that's all you're saying. How you must make the easier choices on draft night. Don't overcomplicate it. That's why I say this to you. And this is why I'm saying, okay, let's do this significantly here. And let's do this. What gives Howie the best chance of success in the draft? What do you think gives Howie the best success in the upcoming draft? What do you guys think gives him the best chance of success? Miles Murphy ain't it. What are the off-ramps that you think are viable for success for the Eagles? And by the way, know this. Here, you know why you don't take Bijan Robinson? If you're rebuilding your team. If you're a player away and you think one guy can help you win the Super Bowl, that's why you draft him. That's why you draft him. Hugh Douglas is right. Having a top 3 defense is a luxury in today's NFL. It's a luxury. Yale's there. Here's the vehicles. Carter, Anderson, Bijan Robinson at 10. And Anderson, you're going to have to move up. Okay. If none of those players are there, your second best point of success, he only has 6 draft choices. Go get more. If you're not good at something, the more gives you the better chance of landing on one. If I have a chance between 2 picks, my chances of failure are 80%. 80% failure, I think. Landing on 2 guys, you didn't land on them. Those guys didn't even see the field a little bit last year. They had no impact on your team last year. That the first and third pick on your team last year had no impact. Had no impact. None. So, at 10, dude, you're praying that more quarterbacks shoot up the rocket and shoot up the draft board. You're praying for that. You're praying. Get this. Can I tell you what I would do if I were the Eagles? I'd bring that kid Hooker in from Tennessee. Start talking like this. Man, this guy is some ball player. Holy shit. Unbelievable. This guy is the best player. Man, I'll tell you what. You talk about an underrated quarterback. This guy here, I would blow this guy's resume up and I become the best used car salesman. The more quarterbacks you have in that top 10, the better chances the Eagles are going to land on a quality guy. Man, I would keep bringing guys in to fill that top 10 as much as I possibly can. Oh, this Van Ness guy, I think he's better than Tyree Wilson, or maybe right there. You know, Anderson's the guy, but this I would be overselling everything. Because the more quality picks you think you have in that top 10, the more value that 10th pick is going to become. The 30th pick is your pick for, you know, I hear people in Philly, boy, they don't know how to draft at all, man. Some of the radio talk show hosts, they have no idea how to draft. The starter's at 30, and you don't have to pay him. And he's going to fall in line where his draft order is. You're going to have you have more success at the bottom of the draft than you do at the top of the draft. Last 15 years, 44% of the first-round quarterbacks have been bust, almost half. And you're trying to tell me you think you're going to get it right on an edge rusher at 10. The law of averages they're not on your side. They're not on your side. You're looking for a starter here. Get him at 30. What if Branch is down there at 30? I'm drafting him. And I got 4 picks with the 10th pick. So then I got 11 picks out of it. And hey, if the Eagles think about this, Tone. If the Eagles get 11 picks and a starter out of this, was it a successful draft? You bet your ass it is. They didn't get a starter last year. If Howie wants to win over the fan base and the organization in one sweep, he has to draft the obvious guy at 10. If it's Carter, do it. If it's Robinson, do it. If it's Anderson, do it. Anderson would have to be a trade up. Okay? He's the best player in the draft. Will Anderson's the best player in the draft the last 2 years. He would have went ahead of Walker last year. Walker's not better than him. This guy's Cornelius Bennett. Even Cornelius Bennett on my Twitter page goes, he is Cornelius Bennett. Would you draft a 7-time Pro Bowler? Would you gamble and trade up for a 7-time Pro Bowler and help 2 teams get to 5 Super Bowls? Would you trade up to get him? Would you trade up to get Cornelius Bennett? Go over to my Twitter page. He agrees with me. Cornelius Bennett, the man himself, agrees with me, thinks Will Anderson is the next coming of him. Biscuit was a hell of a ball player. Shit, Mike Golic just said that he thinks Bijan Robinson's Marshall Faulk. But you guys don't want to draft Marshall Faulk. You want Miles Murphy or Nolan Smith. I'm telling you, Jalen Carter's Jerome Brown. But I want Gonzalez from Oregon. Yeah, because that'll help you win the Super Bowl when you already have 2 corners. I don't give a shit about 2024. I care about 2023. You're right here, Eagle fans. You're right here. Drafting for the future? F the future. The future is today. It's today. It's not promised to you tomorrow. Jalen Hurts will blow his knee out next year. Who cares? Now. Let's go win. Let's go win. Let's go play 60 minutes of football. Care about 3 years. That's upstairs, guys. I'm worried about if I'm Nick Sirianni, I'm worried about, hey, isn't it funny? The most quietest guy during this time is Sirianni, and everybody thinks he's got so much say in the draft. You really think that? You're crazy. This guy didn't even know his coaching staff when he was hired, but he's got say. Okay, sure. Yeah, someone goes, Howie sucks at drafting. GQ. Howie, or GQ. Yeah, but you know how you can change that? Get multiple, like next year, he's going to have what with the compensation picks? He's probably going to have like what, 12, 13 picks? Okay, so 12, 13 picks. Can you imagine this? If you land on 3 guys next year that turn out to be starters, hallelujah. And if you can get N'Kobe, Dean, or N'Kobe and Jordan Davis and Cam Jurgens, and you draft right here, and you get 5 starters all in the draft, he could change the narrative on how people look at his drafting over these next 5 years. Because the last 23 have been suspect. The last 23 have been suspect at best. O-line is tremendous. The rest of it, I don't know. C's and D's. And you're right, Hoss, underdog. They've been in a Super Bowl? Well, because of free agent moves, not because of drafting. Underdog goes, Hey, underdog, you might want to shoot a little higher when you're talking about they've got a better general manager than Jerry Jones. That's your litmus test? Guys won 3 playoff games in 30 years. You might want to shoot a little higher, like maybe the guy in Baltimore or what they do in Kansas City or Seattle. Those are good drafting. Those are good. Here are the teams since 2012 that are the best drafting teams. You want to hear who the best drafting teams are since 2012? Number 5, the Packers. Packers haven't drafted a wide receiver in the first round in 40 years. 40 years. Packers never get wide receiver right. Are you crazy? They don't waste first rounders. Number 4, Cowboys have really done a great job drafting since 2012. You know what the problem with the Cowboys have been? Well, once they draft these guys, they overpay these guys. And once they overpay these guys, Jerry can't stay out of the way. They've actually done a pretty decent job of drafting. They have. But the problem becomes you overpay Zeke, you overpay Dak, you make a trade for Amari Cooper, and you end up overpaying him. The checkbook is Jerry's problem. The draft is Howie's problem. Jerry actually drafts some pretty good players. But at the end of the day, hey, no question, Howie's great with the checkbook. Jerry's awful with it. Jalen Smith? So Jalen Smith's on the team 1 year, and then you turn around, you give him all that money, and you're like, where would you give that guy that money for? Why would you do that? You're going to overpay Micah. Micah Parsons is not that good. Well, here. He's not as good as what they're going to pay him. I can already see it. Okay? Now, the tone goes like this. Human resources are the Commanders' problems. Yeah, man, that's a great take and true, unfortunately. Ravens since 2012, another team, but falling off lately. Seattle and Kansas City are the 2 best teams drafting since 2012. They're the 2 best teams. Okay? 2 best teams. Who would have ever thought? I thought Seattle was going to suck so bad last year, and so did Denver. They got the 5th pick in the draft and made the playoffs with a 17th string quarterback who they just gave a 2-year contract extension to. I mean, dude, look at what you guys just did with the Eagles. You failed on Andre Dillard. You got in the last 2 years. Look at how many first-round failures you guys have shipped out of town. Last 3 years. Carson Wentz, Jalen Reagor, Andre Dillard. I mean, those were guys taken in the last 7 years. 3 of those guys were first-rounders that you shipped out of town or cut or traded for a 7th rounder. I mean, not get crazy here. Whatever, underdog. You think you have a better draft history than the Ravens? Seriously. I wouldn't go there. Dude, your success in drafting is in the O-line. The rest of those guys are marginal. Fletcher's a great player. Who, other than Fletcher Cox, since 2023 on the defensive side of the football, who have you drafted that you would consider a superstar player? Tell me. Since 2000, who have you drafted outside of Fletcher that's a superstar player? Name me one. One. You mean the guy that's in Buffalo or was in Buffalo or is, I think, still? Name me one player in 23 years outside of Fletcher Cox that's a superstar player that you would dub. Don't go. I mean, defensively. Last 23 years, outside of Fletcher Cox, name me one defensive player that you call a superstar. Trent Cole is a superstar? Trent Cole was very good. Brandon Graham is not a superstar. Never at any time did I look at him as being a top 5 end. So again, the 10th pick can do so much for this team. Okay? Can do so much for this team. Okay? They can. And how can you, what would you do here at 10 if you're Howie? What's in the best interest? What's in the best interest of the Eagles? If Jalen Carter, Bijan Robinson are there at 10, and the Raiders, who pick at 7, come to you and say, hey, listen, I'd like that 10th pick. We need a quarterback. What would you trade the pick for a first rounder? Or would you draft Carter or Robinson? You're not drafting Robinson. They're not going to. So it's Carter or trade. Or pick a player that won't have any significance in you winning. What would you do? What's in the best interest of the Eagles at 10? Carter, trade the pick. Because you know what's funny? I didn't get to the second topic today because we've had so much. Yale goes Carter. Damn, man. What pick in the 2023 draft will help the Eagles win a Super Bowl? What pick? Trading up for Anderson? I think there's only 3 things you do. Trading up for Anderson. You have drafted 16 running backs. And by the way, people are going to tell you there's running backs with quality in latter rounds. No, there's not. This is rated the worst running back class in 6 years. So when somebody tells you there's running back talent in this draft, there's not. Do you know where the talent is for the running game for the Eagles? It's in the O-line. Dude, they're going to make why wouldn't you want an exceptional player behind an exceptional line? Why would you want Freddie Pacheco running the ball for you with that O-line? Why would I want a shittier player? Why would I want a lesser player in the huddle that won't help Jalen out as much? Why would I'm trying to build assets around Jalen Hurts. And hey, and in the point here, trying to protect, look at what Baltimore is superficially doing. They're putting a Band-Aid on a pig and saying, hey, don't worry, he'll get better. Here's Odell Beckham broken down, dog. And here, look what we did for you. Dude, it's almost as pathetic as hiring David Culley because he's a black coach to try to convince Deshaun to stay. I mean, you talk to these players like they're stupid. Odell Beckham, if I'm Lamar Jackson, sorry, son, that ain't moving the meter for me. He's a broken down dude. If that guy plays 9 games, so he's going to play 9 games in a running offense. Didn't he do that in Cleveland? How was he in Cleveland? They had Chubb and Kareem Hunt. How is he going to do in Baltimore? They run the ball in Baltimore and throw to the tight end. So you really think Odell Beckham is going to get in front of a free safety and block him? Holy shit. You talk about just an organization not getting it right. Dude, $15 to $18 million on a one-year deal. Huss, I hope he brings a lot of Instagram followers to the Ravens Instagram and to your Twitter page, because that's all he's going to bring. That guy is broken down, not me. $15 million. Fletcher Cox is a steal. Dude, Howie making deals, he's really good at it. That right there is a prime example of totally like thinking you're going to throw your fishing pole out and you're going to nab Lamar to come back into Baltimore and play for $32 million. So wait a minute. You brought a guy in and you're making $15 more million than him, and you're $18 million under market value. And you think Lamar's going to play on that deal? Man. I mean, there's got to be some hollering matches going on in Baltimore, because I would tell you lose my number. Like Aaron Rodgers told Adam Schefter, lose my number, dude. Don't call me again with shit like that. I have no interest in that. I would tell them flat out, I have no interest in coming back to Baltimore under these circumstances. Hey, look, Brinks truck, you back it up to my house. Always make you feel better, right? When you see a pound of money in front of you. How does it make you feel when you got your bank account, you got your bills paid, you got some money, you feel good, don't you? Guys like, screw this, man. Their philosophy has, man, Ozzie, the drafting alone, man, and the free agents, the Rod Woodsons, the Deion Sanders, the Suggses, the Ed Reeds, the Bryant McKinneys, the Jamal Lewises. I mean, the Jonathan Ogdens, the bringing in of the Sam Adamses and the Saraguses and all these other guys. They were brilliant at all that. Now, it's not the same room. It's not the same room. Watson says, but people forget some of those talents don't always translate well into the scheme of the That's correct, Watson. That's correct. That's absolutely correct. That's why Howie controls what they're going to run. Think about this for Sean Desai is not bringing his defense in. They're running the same shit. That's an organizational decision. The organization has now made these fundamental decisions on how they're going to operate, and they have the track record that's on their side. They're not going to use the preseason in any way, shape, or form to prepare for the upcoming year. They go through the motions. They're going to get their talent evaluating in OTAs, mini camps, and organized team activities. That's where they're getting their evaluation. The rest of it, it's just for stealing money from the fans. Exhibition football in Philadelphia is stealing money from the fans. They don't take it serious. Why should you? Why should you buy a ticket to something that they don't even take serious? They don't play their players. They're not going to. They're right, though. 22 guys going into the Super Bowl. Last 2 years, they've been one of the healthiest teams I've ever seen. So they get that. If they make a mistake in a draft, which is often, they go free agency and they can't get an edge rusher to save their life. So what do? They sign Hassan Reddick. They failed on a wide receiver, a big-time wideout. So what do? They go and they made a trade for A.J. Brown. They're horrible at corners. What did they do? They went and got corners. Howie would rather go to the used car lot than to the lottery. And that's what the draft is. It's like filling out lottery cards. You have none of us. That's why, wouldn't you rather to build your football team, hit on the sure thing, or at least he's a pro. Or at least Hassan Reddick's a pro. The kid from Iowa couldn't even start there, but you want to draft him at 10. That's not a gamble? Shit. Okay? Those are right. Those are like when the kid they got from Pittsburgh versus somebody. Do you know the safety position in this year's draft is just as poor as the running back? So if you don't get the kid Branch, what are you going to think? You're going to get a better player in the draft in the 5th round this year? Dude, you see, the amount of millions and millions and millions of dollars that go into the evaluating of these guys. You see, in college, when these guys come out, how many times you see those kids when they put the hats on and they're going to go to like Florida, UM, or Michigan, Ohio State, put the hat on. You never see the kid again ever. You never see the kid ever. Most of the time, out of 10, 2 of those guys are going to be good. Rest of them, you never see them again. Cut off their team, transferred home, whatever. Go to junior college, get their degrees. All good. Think of the money that the college level spends. Then think of the money the NFL spends. Going back to your high school, talking to your coach, doing all that. And when you have a draft record like Howie does, which is terrible, what I would do is, let me go for the sure thing. The Eagles rebuilt this team not through the draft. They got lucky with Jalen. They got lucky. Just the same way the Patriots got lucky with Brady. Do you understand something? Here, let me show you even more to this. Hey, Yale, you'll love this one. You guys remember when Russell Wilson got drafted by Seattle? What was that dude's name that was in Green Bay that had, what's his name? Matt Flynn? There was a quarterback who backed up Brett Favre. The Seahawks went and signed this guy, Matt Flynn. Gave him like $18 million. They went through the preseason process. Pete Carroll has to go to Paul Allen, and he goes like this. This kid in the 3rd round's better. Russell Wilson's better. And the owner goes, we just gave this guy $18 million. I know, but he's better. Owner goes, okay, start him. Do you know that Tavares Jackson, who was the backup quarterback in Seattle, 2 years that Seattle went to the Super Bowl, the second highest paid quarterback on the Seahawks was Russell Wilson. Tavares Jackson made more money. That's a fact. The backup quarterback made more money than Russell Wilson did for 2 years. And years they went to the Super Bowl. Okay? I mean, and look, again, it's not something. See, you get certain people that will always not listen to their own history. You see, when I bring up something, I'm trying to figure out how they operate here. This is really not. Hey, no one's debating the success of the team. Sileo acts like Howie is going to draft a bust in each round. Well, you have. You have. Why do you deny your history? This is who you are. You're not good at drafting DBs. You drafted almost 40 of them since 2000. F. Your wide receivers, you drafted 25. F. Your linebackers, you've drafted 24 of them. O-line, 33. You've been sensational. I don't really care what your opinion is on this one. Because this is what your front office has done since 2000. You can either believe it or not. That's not important to me. See, you don't like your history. It's because you're not very good in the draft. Look at what you just did last year. You overdrafted Jordan Davis. And then you're trying to tell me the steal of the draft is Nakobe Dean. Okay. Your best draft choice since 2000, it was a 6th rounder you fell into in Jason Kelce. Lane, for sure, is your second best. Since 2000, a 6th rounder is your best pick. A 6th rounder. Okay? A 6th rounder. It's all right. It's all right. Oh, it's all right, man. I know. It gets a little. Hey, this and like Tone and I are saying, this is not what makes the building of a team solely in the draft here. Howie traded the 1st round pick a year ago. He didn't pick a pick because he knew better. He knew better. Why? Well, Josh Allen really got better with an experienced wideout and Stephon Diggs going up there, didn't he? You know, even Dak got better with Amari Cooper, didn't he? Yeah. So maybe we could do the same thing here with Jalen Hurts, bringing in a veteran guy. They did, and he did. Smart. That's a smart move. Am I really going to go into the draft and draft some dude from TCU or North Dakota State or some dude like that and take another gamble that you sucked at since 2000 where you've drafted 24 wide receivers and hit on 2 of them? Why would you want – see, look at the odds. 40 DBs in 23 years. Those aren't good odds that you're going to land on a DB. So what do? You trade for one and you sign a free agent. That's why your corners are where they are. Get this. Your general manager is acting exactly how I'm telling you he's been acting. And you want to try to change some sort of narrative that's not true. 23 linebackers in 23 years. Last year, you didn't have one that you drafted in your starting lineup. Did you any coincidence to this? No starting corners that you drafted. Your edge rusher was not drafted. Your 2 linebackers in the middle weren't drafted, and your most significant D tackle wasn't drafted by you. I don't know. Landon Dickerson. I said, once again, Damon, you can't hear either because you only see what you want to hear. I said they're spectacular at O-line. Okay? Milton Williams is about to have a good season. I agree. Landed on guys. Like I said, superstar players on defense outside of Fletcher Cox in almost 25 years. Not in Philly. Do me a favor. Hit the like button. Keep it here on the National Football Show.
Go to get your game on. Go for the beers. Go for the cheers. Go for the hit and the hits. Go for the stakes and the stakes. Go to get your parlay on. Go to get your party on. Go for the scene. Go for the screens. Go for the gallery. Go for the win. Go to Ocean. Visit theoceanac.com to plan your visit.
When it comes to the fight against insurance companies, large corporations, and the healthcare industry, injured victims are always the underdog. But that doesn't worry us. At Messon Associates, we're an injury law firm from Philadelphia, and we come to fight. Our clients know that they've got representation with a chip on its shoulder, and it's the same chip that makes Philly the toughest city in the country. Call 215-568-3500 or visit us online at messalaw.com. Messon Associates, the toughest injury firm in Philadelphia.
Heading down the shore. Have a ball once more.
Here, imaginations run wild and time stands still. Because here, you can find the best of the Jersey Shore, all on one 5-mile island. So leave the old you behind and get lost in the woods.
Wild, wild, wild wood days.
My name is Dan Sileo, and I'm Managing Director here at Del Valle Insurance Group. Been in the business for over 36 years, saving people money on their insurance needs. Give us a call. Let us help you custom design an insurance plan that meets both your needs and budget.
They're carving them up and good play calling along the way. First and goal at the 6.
On the field of life, First Trust Bank is there for you.
Champions on 3. 1, 2, 3.
Because Philadelphia dreams deserve a Philadelphia bank.
So Jalen Carter is meeting with the Raiders and Seahawks this week. Raiders 7th pick, Seahawks 5th pick. Makes sense. Makes sense. Like we started the program out, Philly at 10. How many quarterbacks do we think are going to go in the first round? The Kentucky kid? Florida kid, Bama, OSU. I don't think the Tennessee kid is going to go in the top 10. I don't think that, but I'm going to put that as a question mark. Okay? I don't think so. Who are the top 3 players in the draft? Anderson, Carter, and Robinson. Okay. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Okay. 8, you're hoping? So 4 guys go. Carolina needs a quarterback. That's no way they're going to take a position player. Houston's going to take a quarterback too. How many people think someone could trade up into the first round to get a quarterback? And one of these teams trade out. Arizona is probably going to take a defensive player. Do they take Will Anderson? Probably. Anderson goes at 3. I think he's going because you know why? Jonathan Gannon saw what Hassan Reddick did wrecking ball games. He's not taking Will Anderson. Now, Howie's got a relationship, obviously. You don't think Howie, when Jonathan Gannon got the head coaching job there, you don't think there was some kind of conversation on draft day? Hey, I may be calling you and having a conversation about moving up to 3. How'd you like to move down to 10? You still get an edge rusher down there, and you still maybe get the kid from Iowa or the kid from Texas Tech potentially. You still get your guy. And Howie gets Will Anderson on the other side of Reddick and a generational player. Okay, so you got Cornelius Bennett on one side, and you got Hassan Reddick on the other, and you've got that's a pretty good looking front seven. That's a pretty damn good looking front seven. So the cool thing about the third pick, there's a relationship between Philadelphia and Arizona. Also, the fact you sent Zach Ertz there. So Zach Ertz has enjoyed playing in Arizona. Okay? Indy's getting a quarterback. Shit, Jim Irsay, you want to play poker with Jim Irsay, man. That guy just does not, he doesn't get it. Yeah, we want a quarterback here. We're going to take a quarterback here. Okay? So there's 3 of the quarterbacks. Seattle, are you going to stay on Geno? Are you going to stay on Geno? You're never going to be in a position to get the 5th pick again if you're Seattle. Okay? You're not getting a quarterback next year in the top 10 because you're going to be a playoff team. They're good. If you're Seattle, where are you going in the draft? So you're going to trade up next year? You're there now. Do you trade with Philly? Hey, you might like a guy in next year's draft and say, I'll trade next year and I'll have the 10th pick. Well, that 10th pick, because it's New Orleans' pick, it's now Philly's pick. That would be a problem. Can't move that pick because that pick moves up and down because it came over from New Orleans. Philly finishes second, you're picking that pick goes from 10 to 28. You're not doing that. That 10 goes to 28. Or 32nd. No way. You're Seattle. You got to pick. You're going to pick you can't pick you're not picking a quarterback next year. I think you're picking a quarterback. Then you got Detroit. Jared Goff's your guy. Well, they're out of quarterbacks. So you're probably taking Jalen Carter here. Or if you're Philly, you move up to 5. No, you move up to 6. Would you move up to get Carter? Probably not. So if all that happens, you move out of the 10th pick. You move out of the 10th pick. And you move down. And you keep moving down. Because, again, the 30th pick is going to be your position need. And it's cheaper because you got to pay your quarterback. You get an edge rush, you might, and get this. If you guys want to land on Nolan Smith, you're going to land on Nolan Smith at 30. He ain't going to top 10. He ain't going to top 15. That guy ain't going to the top 20. You get him, you get your guy at 30. Cheaper. And more in line where you're not overdrafting like you did a year ago. And you've done almost your entire history. And the last 3 decades, you've overdrafted. Again, this is who you are. You're better with free agents, sure things. You're better with trades. You're great with the wallet. You're suspect in the draft. Your history speaks to it. It's not an opinion. It's what you've done. That's not, and again, I'm talking about, like Tone said, what is the least amount of resistance for the best formula for success? That's what we're talking about here. Limiting failure. Stay in the Southeastern Conference. Don't overdraft. You're not rebuilding. You don't draft a running back at 10 if you're rebuilding. That's not how you rebuild. But when you're a player away, dude, if I knew that I was one player away from winning a Super Bowl, would it matter who he was? Whew. Some people, man, think about that philosophy. If you knew you were one player away and he was in the draft and you're not going to be overdrafting him, okay, you would still go with a need. Crazy. Chris Landry will join us tomorrow. We're going to break down the draft with him. Chris is an former NFL scout. He does this for a living. We're going to put all these scenarios to him, and all questions that you have, get them together tonight. And if you guys have some questions for Chris Landry on the Eagle draft tomorrow or your favorite team, just post them tomorrow and we'll get to them. We'll have a section and a segment so that you guys can ask Chris, who is one of the formidable guys that I trust a lot when it comes to the NFL draft. If Miles Sanders does his job slightly, we may win the Super Bowl. Dude, 8th greatest rushing season in Eagle history. And all of a sudden, you're going to do that by committee now. Right. If Bijan Robinson, hey, Tone, before I leave, if B.J. Robinson is playing in the Super Bowl with the Eagles, you beat the Chiefs. I'll leave you with that. Xander, Big Joe, Tone, thank you guys so much. You guys have been spectacular. Please hit the like button. Don't forget we had on Gary Cobb and Mike Golic today. We appreciate you guys. See you tomorrow, 3 to 6 Eastern, and we'll catch you on the flip side.
Go to get your game on. Go for the beers. Go for the cheers. Go for the hit and the hits. Go for the stakes and the stakes. Go to get your parlay on. Go to get your party on. Go for the scene. Go for the screens. Go for the gallery. Go for the win. Go to Ocean. Visit theoceanac.com.